Go Pizza presents SCP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wild.
Well,
That's it.
it looked like it was going well,
Hey,
but it's over. The poor Vegas Golden Knights.
it's all I know, right? Got robbed. Can we just first off welcome our buddy back to the studio, Mr. Chris Johnson?
Hey.
Chris,
Sorry to arrive under these circumstances.
well, you know, it's funny because the thing is that it gets to a certain point in the season and we can't have you on unless it's under these circumstances because you're so busy. So we're happy to
So we
see
brought
you.
him on a very light work day.
Yeah, yeah, just
Locker cleanup day.
I'm sorry for doing that to you. It was I was like texting him last night. I'm going, oh man, it'd be really great if Chris could come on and explain everything that happened because we could sift through. But you saw it live and you got the feeling and the tone and all that. Because we see the quotes come up on Twitter. They're a little out of context. We can watch some of the videos. But I don't think it compares to being there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've been there for a lot.
Yeah. So
that was my fourth Game 7 in Boston, so...
before we get to that, we obviously have to talk about... We have to do we want to include you in something that we have to do at the beginning of every episode now. And this is unfortunate that it started so late because now this is the last time we get to do it this season. We'll pick it back up in the fall, though. Crown Royal is obviously a new partner on the show. So every
Big
Leafs
fan.
game, big fan, always, yeah. And they basically, put it out to us, put it out to our listeners to use the hashtag #OurTownOurCrown and ask who wore the crown, who was the best player the Toronto way in each game. And for this one, instead of saying Game 7, let's say the series. Who wore the Leafs crown in the series? And we're talking about the new Toronto way, not the 93 Leafs Toronto way, which, all of our dads are kind of stuck in that old way of put on your hard hat and go to work. This is a finesse, young, spirited team. Chris, we'll start with you. Who do you think was the best Leafs player? Who wears the crown in that series?
In the series overall.
That's a tough one. I'm inclined to give it to Austin Matthews, just because scoring still counts. And he scored a lot of goals. He had a lot of shots. But, I still see he could have been better.
Yes.
Because, he's one of these guys, he's got infinite possibilities. So you just always think there could be more there. Yeah, I'll stick with Austin.
Austin Matthews.
He's the king. He's going to come back with a C on his jersey. He's
really?
This is his team, and he had a way better playoffs than last year. I thought, under the circumstances, he'll give him the crown.
Okay. Jesse.
I think it has to go to the guy who played with a torn ACL. Because if you can play with a torn ACL, that's a pretty big Toronto way to play.
Mr. Zach Hyman?
Zach Hyman. That's who it's going to.
Who, I guess he told Mike Babcock at one point, he's like, yeah, I think I'm feeling better. Which goes to Steve's point, which is hockey players are dumb.
Hashtag hockey player.
Yeah, exactly.
And the remedy for it was to just skip morning practice, and then you can play that night. You just don't practice, and you'll be good.
Ice bath, nice rest.
And then straight to the operating table, 6-month recovery.
No kidding.
I love Zach Hyman. Who's better, Zach Hyman or Nick Patan? I know my answer. Who's better, Zach Hyman with a torn ACL or Nick Patan? I know my answer, and it's different than the first one.
Yep. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm leaving you to last, so I'm going to jump ahead of you in line because
the
podcast is named after you. You're even wearing a shirt.
You do that.
I'm going to say Freddie Anderson. Freddie Anderson gets the crown. Now, I didn't think Freddie had the strongest Game 7.
Were there holes in the crown in Game 7?
Wow. But let's not pretend we are in this series, and I say we. The Leafs are in this series without Frederik Anderson. He may not have shut the door the way Mike Babcock had. Freddie Anderson shut the door when he announces the starter. Didn't shut the door the way we would have wanted him to in Game 7.
Sparks woulda.
But think about Game 2 when they absolutely wasted how amazing Freddie Anderson was in that game.
And 4 and 6.
And 6. That series is not that series without Freddie Anderson.
No.
He's my crown. I love you, Freddie. We'll see you next year.
The person who deserves to wear the crown
Are you going to say Nick Patan?
is you, the fans. You're still there. In spite of all evidence to turn and run, you are always still there. The Toronto Maple Leafs are fortunate to have you. You will always be there. One day they will reward you, I'm sure. And that's why you get to wear the crown.
Now, next season, or next game, because you're watching round 2, round 3, round 4, why not enjoy puck drop with a Crown Royal? I mean, you could enjoy puck drop with a Crown Royal and dream of what the Leafs can be in the future.
You could.
Who Wore the Crown, sponsored by Crown Royal. Thank you so much for listening to that. Now, Chris, you have been, as you said, to a lot of locker cleanout days. And when I was telling my wife today about what you were doing, she's like, well, why would he bug them they're just cleaning out their locker? I'm like, no, Caprice, this is like a media availability. They call it locker cleanout, but it's actually, she's like,
They're not even invited.
She's like,
you just kind of elbows in there.
She's like, no, I thought they had like a box that they took their stuff home and then the media is hounding them on the way to their car. No.
Taking it a little literally.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, as somebody who wasn't a huge fan and is starting to get into it and who was genuinely disappointed after Game 7, it was kind of one of those.
You brought her
things
to the dark side.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. She's like, this team with the heartbreak.
It's the worst feeling. I did that with my wife, but it was for 202013.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there like, I did this to her.
Yes.
This is my fault.
So
this
it's
is
starting in
directly
my house
fault.
after 5 years together.
And to a pregnant woman, no less. I mean, have you know?
I know.
You're a bastard.
Listen,
You're a bastard, Adam
my
Wiles.
unborn daughter already hates me.
As
Who
she
is also
should.
a Leafs fan. Chris, I got to ask you, how did this one compare to other locker cleanout days?
Well, the funny thing is, there was actually one point where there was a scrum going on, and Igor Ozaganov came over and cleaned out his locker in front of us, which actually never happens on locker cleanout
Like
day.
he physically just
He
cleaned it out?
physically was like throwing stuff into a bag and like moving people aside while they were doing a media scrum, which was I've never seen before. I guess he had a flight to catch or
Well,
something.
apparently, Darren Dreger tweeted today that he's a good chance he goes back to Russia next year, although the Leafs are looking to retain him? Oh, no. Question mark?
It's not going to happen. He's gone.
He's gone. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. There's one of the guys on my list that
Well,
I
he
was like,
said
ask
that-
Chris about.
But
said
but
that-
literally, he was like packing up before every.
So nobody actually cleans out the locker on locker cleanout.
No,
day,
like all the equipment was in every stall but his, as he was like taking it out, jamming
Wow.
jerseys in his bag.
I wonder if he gets like free equipment that he's like, I'm going to take this back to Russia. It's higher quality stuff. You know what I mean?
Why not? I mean, he's had so much time to clean it out. Why do you wait for today? So, I'm in that kind of mood.
And
You are ornery, young man.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
did you get
Just wait.
Did you get the sense that? Would you say there was more frustration, anger, or disappointment? Like, what was the feeling you walked away with?
It was a newsy day, which
Yeah.
sometimes it's just a lot of guys saying the same thing, like, we'll be better next year and we learned something this year. There wasn't so much of that. There was like a lot of meat there, which kind of reminds me, or just a symbol of how much change I think is going to come to this team this summer. That there's a lot on the horizon here, more than certainly last year, and maybe more than has been discussed, just because obviously until 2 days ago we were worried about the power play and all the sort of day-to-day things with the team. But there was a lot in the air there today. And I must say, for Caprice or anyone else who doesn't understand what this day is like, it's usually the reward, honestly, for a journalist at the end of a long season. This is where you get honesty. And guys that are injured will tell you about the extent of their injuries and how they suffered them and what it was like. And players that are out of contract will not pretend anymore, like Jake Gardner getting emotional today, that, oh, yeah, this is fine. This will take care of itself. I mean, you get a sense he understands this is more than likely the end of his time here. Nazem Kadri even was pretty emotional discussing his suspension and talking about how he might need some personal help that he didn't get into specifics about. But, you get a lot more sort of, you really see behind the curtain on locker cleanout day. And there was just a lot in the air there today. And I don't think anyone knows what this team's going to look like come training camp.
Oh, good. So only good news then. Oh, good.
Well, you know what? If it had been, I'd have been worried. If they had been on brand and on message, well, we're going to be better next year, I don't think that would have been enough. And if you, I mean, we got a lot to cover, but I want to start with Nazem Kadri, because that's the edge in the series, in my mind. That's the pivot point.
They win in 6. I'll stand by it.
I think they win.
I'll die on that hill. They win in 6.
And he was having a great game in Game 2. He's the only one playing.
Yeah, he said I was ready to ramp it up.
So, oh, man. So,
Nas! Shut up, dude! Stop talking!
so what?
He's going to be such a good LA King. Damn it pisses me off.
We'll start with, what did he say? And expand on, you kind of gave a top line there, but expand on what he said, how he said he felt, and was there any reaction from teammates? Did you get a sense of how they felt about the situation?
Well, from him, he was there was a lot more regret and remorse than typically we've had in these situations from him, including last year's playoff suspension. I mean, I think this was a tipping point for him where he realizes, I can't do anything again. I mean, he's in Brad Marchand territory, not maybe in all the antics, but if he gets another suspension, it's like 10 games and 12 games, and like he's getting into
millions of
getting into
dollars
Rafi Torres.
he's on the
territory.
Rafi Torres path here, and I think he wants to turn off it before, he's getting 20-game suspensions and those type of things. So he was emotional. He was regretful. He acknowledged what you guys said. I asked him directly, do you think you win the series if you're in it for those 5 games? And he basically said yes, with a lot more words. And, I think I don't get the sense he's worried about being traded or anything. He feels like he's gone good ground with the team, but, he did say he's got to deal with some personal stuff, and he thinks that's maybe at the core of why he snaps. And, tried to defend it as well and say, look, he was looking out for a teammate. He wasn't trying to say that shouldn't have been a suspension, but he was saying it came from a good place, that his actions were what they were. But anyway.
I don't think anybody doubted that, though.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever up for debate, right? It wasn't like...
I didn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually have to confess, like, cards on the table, I really like this guy. Like, he's been a pleasure to deal with for 10 years.
Same, dude. Same.
He's so real. And so, I just have a bias in the sense that I almost want to give him more benefit of the doubt just because he's a pretty good guy in my dealings with him.
100%.
And I don't know if he's coming back. That's a tricky one.
And that's so James Myrtle made an interesting. There was one really interesting sentence in James Myrtle's report card, and he gave for the playoffs. He gave Nazem Kadri an F because he played a game and a half and did the thing again. But what he said was he certainly has not endeared himself to teammates over the past few years. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially it. Or has not endeared himself to teammates was the actual quote from the article, and I could pull it up if you'd like me to get more exact than that. Is that the sense that you got?
No, I mean, I like James and I are buddies, but here's the thing: we have to adopt hockey brain for a minute,
okay,
and stop looking at this rationally. And well, obviously, no teammate is happy to see him leave the series. I think they all understand. First of all, a lot of stuff happens on the ice that you can't get away with in your day-to-day life, and they see it as he's coming to defense of his teammate. Yeah. So even though they don't like the outcome, my sense is that he's rather beloved, honestly. Yeah. Now, I don't have every single guy hooked up to a polygraph talking to me every day. So there might be some small element of that, but I don't sense that at all with the Leafs, honestly. I think most of the players understand this shit happens. And it shouldn't happen, and you don't want it to happen, and all those things. But I think his teammates are more likely to have his back, honestly, than the media, the fans, and everyone on the outside who are looking at this going, you cross-checked him in the head. Yeah. It's like, what did you expect was going to happen there?
We were pretty pissed, I'm not going to lie. I felt at the time, I'm like, that's it. He's done. He's gone.
And I do know at the upper end of the organization, there's some idea that we maybe can't trust him. Like that's a conversation being had in the front office, that they don't know, like, okay, this is twice now. They gave him a personal suspension years ago for being late for practice. This guy's given up $400,000 or $500,000 of his own money there's been a lot of penalties along the way that you would think would curb behavior, and it so far hasn't done it. And so I think that is a conversation outside the dressing room with the team, but inside, I kind of think the guys are like, effing right. We got someone here sticking up for us.
I 100% believe that, but his teammates aren't going to trade him, and they're not the ones who have to make that decision.
Right.
And what I've said on this podcast is, it is fathomable that he does it again next year, and if it happens again next year, it's on Kyle. It's a little bit on Kyle.
It's a lot on Kyle.
It's a lot on Kyle. He had a chance to remove this guy who time and time again proved that this is what he does. And you know how much it kills me to say this? I love Nazem Kadri.
Who do you want as your third line center? I mean, that's the hard thing.
And at $4 million.
Good player, good value contract.
Yeah.
Provide something they don't have in abundance, which is what Dubas said today. It makes no logical sense to trade him. And then you look at the minute the playoffs begin, and it makes every bit of sense to trade him. It drives me nuts.
Do you think next year he's going to do the same thing, get suspended? Would you take that?
Done
My
it 2 years in a
answer
row.
last year was no.
Yeah.
Last year me was wrong.
You're twice bit now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and what are if the upper management's having that discussion, and I'm assuming you mean the guys in control.
Yeah.
What is the normal outcome when management starts to have discussions like that with a player, about a player, not with them necessarily, but about them? And I'm sure they've spoken to Nas on many occasions. He wasn't even there for Game 5 and Game 7, right? They
Right.
didn't even make the trip with the team.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that was symbolic or not.
I think part of it is just he can get a better workout back here.
Okay.
Instead of being the 28th guy on the ice in the morning skate who can't possibly play that game.
Right.
Security.
Now, maybe some of it is a little bit of just, yeah, you've lost the right to be part of this for a few days, so you stay to the side and watch it on TV. And look, when they're having that conversation, what it says to me is there's no guarantees back. And I think that's where we're all kind of at here. We understand this could go one of two directions. They trade him or they try to rehabilitate him again and they try to work with him. And I see it as a coin flip. Honestly, we're only sitting here not even 2 full days since they were eliminated. I don't think they truly know where it's going. Mm-hmm. And they're having that conversation about a few guys on this team and for different reasons than Naz and his suspension and his behavior that he can't quite control. But it'll be an interesting one.
Well, who else are they having that discussion about? And that's not about trust. That's about movement. Because you said, I don't see how you could be disagreed with on this one. It's going to be a big summer for Kyle Dubas, and it's going to be a big summer for roster turnover. Who are they having these discussions about that wouldn't surprise us and would surprise us?
Well, Patrick Marleau. How do we approach this?
Because he says he's playing next year.
Well, of course. I mean, look, what's he going to make? $3 million?
So, doesn't he get most of his bonus, and then it's 1.5 or something?
It's a lot of.
It's
a
like
lot
July
of.
1st
His
bonus.
base salary next year is 1.25. His signing bonus is $3 million.
Right.
There you go.
And he's played 750 straight games, give or take.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not retiring.
No.
But it doesn't mean he's playing in Toronto. I think if we're handicapping this, 90% he's playing in Toronto.
Okay.
He moved 4 kids here. Like, that's not a small thing. He built a giant, huge rink, like, in his backyard.
Right.
And he signed a 3-year contract and got a no-move to play 3 years here. So I think it's likely he's here. But they're probably debating, how do we have that discussion? Do we broach it with him? Look, if you want to move on, we might try to do, I'm sure that's being had. Jake Gardner, it seems like there's been a lot of discussion there. The team isn't willing to say he's gone. They'd love to keep him. I just think the money isn't going to add up. Some of these young guys, once they get Marner's contract done with, they have to figure out if they're signing and keeping both of Captain and Janssen. Not out of performance, just again out of what do we have below them? What can we replace them with that's cheaper, and can we justify that? What can we trade them for to bring in? I think it's happening everywhere. I really don't think Nylander's being moved. I know we're gonna hear a ton of that.
Oh man, it's already started.
That was a real cause you might have noticed on the Twitterverse this last few months. It seems like everyone older than us hates him. Everyone, I don't know what the threshold is, but
I think it's got to be 42. I think it's 42.
Well, I'm south of that, and everyone 42 and above just thinks
hates
he can't
him.
even play hockey. What's he doing on the team? The rest of us, I think, see a little bit more there. And look, he didn't have a great year. I think we'd all would acknowledge that.
Totally.
100%.
But I'm still betting on the guy who turns 23 in a few days that had 2 61-point seasons already.
Yep.
And I think Kyle Dubas thinks that way. Honestly, he's the right age with the core of this team that you're hoping eventually wins a Stanley Cup.
A near identical career with Mitch Marner heading into the season.
Right.
Near identical, statistically
points,
anyway.
Corsi, expected goal, almost the exact same, right?
Right. And then Mitch Marner exploded after attending training camp and playing exhibition games and 28 regular season games.
Yeah, crazy how that happens, right?
And I don't know that. Look, I don't think it's reasonable to say that Nylander will be a 90-point player as Mitch Marner was this year. But even if he's a 70-point player, that's more than worth what they're paying him.
Yeah. Which he's more than capable of getting if they play him with the guy they signed him to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which I think will happen, which is why, even though you're going to hear tons of speculation about him being moved on July 2nd, I would say ignore it. And it's for the same reason, Jesse, you're looking up there on Marleau. He's got, $8.3 million, I think, July 1st coming. He's already paid $17 million of it. As of July 1st, he's already received $17 million of that new deal. So an acquiring team is getting him for cheap in terms of actual dollars. But I just don't. It doesn't jive with this front office to me. So he'll be back. I don't think that there's I don't think that's a real discussion that's happening on a serious level.
Well, since we're going through the list here, there's two guys here that I want to talk. First, trade Nikita Zaitsev. Is that a thing?
Yeah, they had those discussions at the deadline. And
Is there interest? Can you trade him?
there's interest. I think the question becomes, are you trading him? How much do you have to sweeten it? Do you have to include a draft pick to trade him? I think that there's a debate within that about what his value is. But if you remove the fact he has 5 more years on his deal, I think he's a serviceable defenseman in the NHL.
He's a 5'6".
Right. And maybe even a little bit above that. Like, he played pretty well in the playoffs. Maybe paired with someone
Muzzin.
like Jake Muzzin, you can make something out of him. I believe that they can trade him and believe that it's a possibility. It's probably not. I sort of look at it, okay, Marleau is probably number one in terms of ways to create cap space to make things easier. But if you can't move him, well, then maybe it's Zaitsev. The problem is, I think we'd all agree, they still have to improve the blue line. You know, trading one of your top 4 defensemen right now isn't necessarily the right. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make them better for next year. Mm-hmm. So I think they're kind of going to go through that list. And I think at some point you get to Kadri, even though he's on a cost-controlled deal. For him, he's an asset. If you're trading him, you're getting something back, maybe even part of a package for a blue liner. So, man, this is going to be a great offseason.
Really?
Yeah.
We
For
hear
the Leafs.
that a lot. We hear that a lot.
Yeah,
and oftentimes it's like, oh.
This is what's different, fellas. They have to try to win a Stanley Cup next year. Like, I mean, all in, exhausting every possible avenue to do it. You've just had the GM say today, I've got to be better.
And he had a great year.
Yeah.
Right, but
Muzzin, Tavares, Tyler Ennis was a good pickup.
he's now entering, he's on the second lap of his marathon now. He's gone through one season. He knows the ropes. He's had discussions. He's laid groundwork. I think we're going to see some massive fireworks out of the Scotiabank Arena over the summer.
Wow.
I think that there's going to be real activity because they can't just accept rolling out the same core and more or less the same guys and do a couple little cap things, sign Tyler Ennis's for $1 million and just assume it's going to be 4 rounds next year. So I think you're going to see meaningful change to this roster and buckle up. It's going to be good for the podcast game.
Hell yeah!
Oh, yeah.
I think it's funny you say that because I've been saying 2 things. One, and I don't know if this is wrong, but I feel like the whole John Tavares sweepstakes in his first year as GM took up so much of his time and so much of his attention that it sort of didn't allow him to. I know it's ignorant to say getting John Tavares didn't allow Dubas to really put his stamp on the team, but even though it's one hell of a player, it's one thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I almost feel like this year he's free to do whatever he wants.
Well, and he had Tavares, and then he had the Matthews, Nylander, and Marner talks all last summer.
Yes.
Right.
And he's got 2/3 of those guys signed now that isn't part of the conversation. Now, the Marner one is interesting.
Well, now we're hearing that it's got to be north of 11, otherwise he won't accept it.
You're going to hear a lot of things. Agents say a lot of things. Trust me, it's my job to call them. There's a lot of things. It's sort of like you leak the odd thing to a certain guy who just tweets what you say, but it doesn't mean that that's what you do when push comes to shove.
We're starting to figure out who those guys are, by the way.
Right. I'm not naming them because they're my colleagues.
No, you shouldn't. And neither are we.
You can name them when I'm not sitting here. But
Who doesn't love CJ?
But I will say this. There is a scenario where Mitch Marner isn't a Maple Leaf next year.
What's that scenario?
The scenario to me is very simple. At some point, and I mean in the real near future, in the next 6-7 weeks, say, there will be a final conversation where the Leafs say, this is what we can pay you. They'll probably have graphs and charts, and they'll explain, because we have to pay this guy this and this guy that, and we're trying to win a cup. And if Marner isn't willing to take that number, I think the Leafs certainly have to explore trading him. And beyond that, if it's not a trade, because everyone seems to say he's getting this offer sheet, they have to at least explore not matching the offer sheet. If it's money beyond what they can afford in terms of keeping their cap picture together, take 4 first-round draft picks and chase Panarin or someone else.
Well, and that to me, you end up with more assets if and a guy who's been pretty consistent. If you get a guy like Panarin, you end up with 4 first-rounders and Panarin. I don't know how you can't see that as a victory.
Right, but it's not a victory because they love Mitch Marner.
Of course.
Right.
Like,
Mitch
none of
Marner's
this
also
is, there's not even an undercurrent here that they want this to happen. It just might happen if Mitch Marner and his agent and his family force this.
And his family's a key part of this, too.
Well, but I'm not taking shots at any of them. I think it's his right. Look, I think we all watch this guy. He's a tremendous hockey player. Haven't heard one bad word about him as a person. Haven't heard any none of his teammates say, yeah, but Mitch does it. Like, he's
Nothing.
beloved, and I think the fans love this guy. He's a local kid who's living everyone's dream that grew up in Toronto wanting to be a hockey player. But there is a limit to what they can pay him. And
Steve's got a theory about that. If Mitch accepted less.
Oh, wow.
This is ridiculous.
It's a
out there,
stupid theory.
tinfoil
Here.
hat, but I want you
Do
to...
you want me to get to that or the second thing?
But
I was gonna say?
what is less? Like, there is a gray area
yeah.
here. Like, the Leafs aren't going to try to pay him Nylander's contract.
No.
Yeah.
No,
You know
we're
what I
talking
mean?
Kucherov money. 9.5.
Right, or even 10. It's just this idea that he's not going to take less than Matthews, which is 11.6, or he's not going to take less than Tavares, which is 11. Both those guys play center, and both those guys score more goals. And whether we can debate, it's sort of like there's different kinds of pizza, and you might like a certain kind, and Jesse likes a certain kind, I like a certain kind. The truth of the matter is, if you look at the way money is doled out in the NHL, centers who score are getting the most money. And it's because it's the hardest position to play, it's the hardest to find to replace, and it's the hardest thing to do in this whole game, to score goals. And Mitch Marner does all kinds of amazing stuff at an absolute elite level, but he doesn't tick those two boxes. And so they have to find a way to get him to accept a little bit less, I think, than 11. Maybe I'll be surprised here, because I haven't had any updated private conversations. I've just been covering the playoffs. Sure, I haven't got into this with the principals. I don't know maybe if they've seen something that's changed their minds, but I don't believe they'll go to 11 with Mitch Marner. And if that is the number that they insist upon and that they can get in an offer sheet, I think he'll either be traded by the draft or at the draft, or he'll get an offer sheet on July 1st, and there's a potential the Leafs won't match it. And you have to remember with those offer sheets, those first round picks aren't protected. So you can get into Ottawa Senators territory. If you're another team out there that sucks right now, you're giving up 4 first-round picks and you can't protect them. So if you don't make the playoffs, if Mitch Marner doesn't make you make the playoffs, that's in the draft lottery next year.
That seems like a Eugene move, by the way, because he just hates the Leafs. So it would be a Eugene move for sure to go, hey, let's go blast a pile of money at this guy.
Oh, and then the Leafs got to spend some picks to get Taylor Hall to guarantee that they win the draft lottery.
All the rumors are like the Islanders might do this. Mm-hmm. I think the Detroit Red Wings pre-Yzerman were at least thinking not so much necessarily about Mitch Marner specifically, but that they had internally made a decision, we're going to look seriously at offer sheets.
Maybe Braden Point.
Braden Point is a possibility. Now, I don't know where that stands with Steve Yzerman. To me, it doesn't feel like a move he would make, but the organization at least gone down that road. I do think it's more likely that we see an offer sheet this summer finally after many years without one. But this is going to come to a head, and I think it's going to be very simple at the end. It's been complicated and gray and weird for a long time. It's just going to get down to this is literally the number, and they'll show it to them that we're not screwing you. This is what the comparables are, and he has to decide if he wants to be a Toronto Maple
But
Leaf
he
or
can
not.
make so much money on the side here, too.
He already is. Have you seen?
Yeah.
He's on everything.
Yeah.
So my favorite part of Mitch Marner's Instagram account isn't his account; it's the Kasperi Kapanen comments on everyone. Like again. And did you see the one where Kapanen put of him in his house, and he just said, "This is not sponsored."
yeah.
Like just outright chirping him. I love it.
So this is where I was going with this, and I'm saying this knowing that it's wrong, but here it comes. So he's got.
Hey, it's your podcast, bud.
Right. He's got Intact Insurance. He's got Apple.
Red Bull.
He's got Red Bull. He's got everything. Marner has everything.
Beats.
Beats. That's right.
Visa with Nylander
Does he
there.
have insurance, too? Intact?
Yeah, Intact.
He said it, yeah.
Well,
Oh, he
and,
did say
and,
Intact,
and like
sorry.
Nylander's even getting the trickle down of that. I doubt they picked up the phone and went, "Hey, we'd like William Nylander, the most beloved Leaf right now." Like, I'm sure he got some trickle down from that. We live in an era.
And did you hear Spit and Chicklets?
No.
They broke that he lived for free last year.
Who?
Marner?
Marner
way.
in a downtown condo.
Oh.
They were outing him
do you
as sort of
think
being
they
a
for
cheap
that?
guy. Now I don't know if I don't have any personal knowledge of that, but Spit and Chicklets was saying he's like
Did
he
they
didn't
say
even
who
pay
paid
to
for it?
live.
Wow. Why? Was the condo just like we
It was
wanna
like
have
his
Mitch
buddy's
Marner,
dad or something. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So money is
Good.
not an issue.
If you're MLSE, would you not foot that bill?
You can't.
You're not allowed.
Yeah, but your friend might. Not you.
But here's the thing.
For being such a big Leafs fan, Here's $37,000 or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. I just threw it around.
That'd be like 37 grand a month. He'd be living in a nice place. I
Yeah,
would
you'd
think.
be living in. So anyway, sorry.
Sorry, I totally interrupted you there.
No,
This
it's
is, but this
perfect.
is an interesting theory that Steve has that would never fly, but it's interesting anyway.
We live in an era now where, I mean, he gets a lot of those things, not just because he's a great hockey player, but because he's beloved. Like, he's probably the most popular Leaf. And every time I say probably, people roll their eyes at me. He's the most beloved Leaf.
But Matthews' jersey is number 1 in the league. And I
doesn't- he
see a
doesn't
lot
come up.
more
He
Matthews
just-
jerseys.
I love him, and he's probably the best Leaf. He doesn't come up in conversation as often as Mitch Marner.
It's because Mitch is like cute and cuddly and looks like your little brother.
And he plays fun.
Yes, and he looks like he's having fun at all times.
Yes.
Yes.
But
So
he is.
whether or not he is the best player or whatever,
He's extremely marketable. We will agree on that.
extraordinarily marketable. So the cap hit changes perception of everybody. I think Connor Brown would be Darcy Tucker beloved in this city if he didn't make $2 million a year. It changes everything.
People
So-
hate Patrick Marleau because he makes $6 million.
And that
he's
guy,
Patrick
and he's
Marleau.
such an old goat.
He's the best.
You know what I mean? So I
You wore a Matthews hoodie in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
he's,
great.
he's awesome.
that was great. And
But no one saw that. They just saw him out with the goalie out in Game
Yeah.
7.
yeah.
I saw your vid, bud.
Oh, I wanted to. Oh, so there is a. People ask
We
me.
have
Oh
gotta
yeah,
get
no,
to
no.
this point. I've been trying.
no.
to...
I know we got to get to this point,
10
but
minutes.
a bunch of people
Can you
ask me.
just drop it?
A bunch of people ask me to. It's going to take longer if you keep interrupting, Adam. A lot of people ask me to live stream myself watching Game 7, and my wife posted a couple videos that are exactly why.
Incriminating.
And they'll never see the light of day unless you follow her, which you can't because it's private. So,
But I do follow her, so I
yes,
saw
well,
it.
and you do, yes, but they
Thanks,
don't.
Mrs.
I'm
Dangle.
pointing at the camera. So, if you want to sell a $10 item at your store, what do you list it as? $9.99. What if Mitch Marner signed for? I know, I already see you smiling.
Are we getting
What
to
if
the
he
point?
signed for 9.99 or 9.95, something like that? What if he did that?
Which they've been pumping up his perceived value to be over $11 million a year.
And he would. They've already pumped his value up. He's the most beloved Leaf, and he would guarantee by signing that contract, he'd be the most beloved Leaf for the entire duration of it. More than Matthews, more than Riley, more than anyone else on the team.
Good PR move.
If he signs for just a hair under, he signs for 10 that's listed as 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not a crazy theory. Because I actually do believe if somehow there's a PR spin out of this that he signed for a hometown discount, I mean, that's like the last. He's already got like the statue's already up there of him blocking a shot in Game 3 of the series. But like they're making it gold now instead of just bronze. You know what I mean? If he does that, I mean, and that's the way to sell this. If he ends up taking less than 11 or 10 or whatever it ends up being, is that he wanted to be here so bad, local kid. Because let's do it the other way. If he goes and signs an offer sheet, he's going to make more money, but he will be the most hated former Maple Leaf of this generation, I think.
Yes.
You thought the Tavares stuff was bad.
Yeah. Well, and you look at it, Chris, to your point, yes, he'll make more money on paper, but I don't think he'll make more money. I mean, you got to remember there's what's the escrow? 15%?
Yeah, a little less, 12
Then you
now
got
maybe.
agent fees and all that other stuff. Where you make your real money for these guys in that stratosphere is endorsements.
And they
Like, where are
they also make US dollars, man. And right now we're like it's snuck up on us, but we're basically back to a 60-cent dollar again
Yeah.
compared to the US.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was 70, which was bad.
Dude, when I'm
it's-
doing my hotels from the road, it's like 137 now.
Oh, wow.
So 63-cent dollar, whatever you want.
So those guys spending those U.S. dollars in Canada is going a lot further than it should.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, good luck, Sens. I'm sure it'll be
So you think about
another
that.
great
You
season.
make $10 million American. That's $13 million here.
Yeah.
Or $13.7 million here.
So
Right.
that's
Right?
that's our answer to the tax problem with Tampa.
Bingo.
It's having a terrible economy. So anyway, that was my first theory there. What was the second?
it took a while to get there. That was a journey.
yeah.
Holy
But
moly,
I will
I'm
say-
20
exhausted.
minutes.
But I will say, that's not a crazy thought.
Well, and the other thing was in terms of it being a crazy summer and anything being possible, a guy I've heard Kyle Dubas bring up time and time again when it comes to who he gets advice from is Masai Ujiri. And he might be the most cold-blooded general manager in North American professional sports. That guy traded the most beloved Raptor
Ever.
Probably.
The only guy who wanted to stay.
And now they have a
traded him.
shot at a championship.
Yeah. So so Steve's theory is possible. Your theory is possible. We just don't know.
Right.
And I wouldn't, you know what? I'm not going to pin you with theory. It's a possibility.
But it's been a while since I've been with you guys, I think.
Yeah.
Preseason, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was right before the season.
Yeah, at least like 8 months.
So here's the thing. At the trade deadline, in the days before the deadline, I got wind of the fact the Leafs were working on something major. And I'm led to believe it was for a defenseman, and it was going to be a name. Like a big name. And I just wonder...
if you were that defenseman, which way would you shoot?
I think you probably shoot right.
Would you be from here?
Not necessarily. Because I honestly, if I knew who it was, I'd just tell you.
Yeah.
But based on what other teams were hearing the Leafs were making calls on, so this isn't from the Leafs front office, they were looking to move a series of players that would only be done if you were bringing in one
Mega
big player. And so I just wonder if that might be revisited in some way, shape, or form in the offseason.
Do you see a guy like PK? Who's
I don't think
rumors swirling again?
I should say, I do think it's possible PK's move this offseason. I don't think it was him at the deadline.
Okay.
I don't know how he'd fit in, man.
Yeah. Money-wise, it's just crazy.
I'm even thinking just everything.
Personality, too?
Well, I just think he wears people down.
Okay.
And who knows? Is Mike Babcock going to even be coaching this team? I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, we got to get to him eventually. But you got wind of a right-handed shot defenseman potentially coming to the Leafs and major parts going the other way.
Major parts in separate deals. That's how it came to me. Is that the Leafs were trying to trade some players to create cap space and roster space. And these other teams really thought it was in a bid to get a monster D. So I just wonder if that's still in the air. And, there's a few guys out there like Drew Doughty. LA, look where LA is going right now. Mm-hmm. They say they're on mile 1 of their 26-mile marathon with Todd McClellan. Like they're getting younger. Could Drew Doughty be had? Would the Leafs be interested? Mm-hmm. Even a guy like Aaron Ekblad.
Could he be had though?
Yeah, that contract is tough. The
$11 million bucks.
$11 million bucks for starting next year.
Well, we're already imagining a universe where maybe Mitch Marner is in a Leaf. So,
okay, so if we're getting imagination land here, and then
right, but again, this isn't just fantasy land. Like this could actually happen with Mitch, just because it might be it's a different thing than Jake, but what he demands or what they want the Leafs might not be able to match, and it might make more sense for the Leafs not to pay him that and get what they can get for him and reshape maybe how they're spending money. I just think everything's on the table.
Okay.
Again, they'd love to keep Mitch. I just don't know if they're going to be able to.
Ron Hainsey.
Ron Dog.
He was really nice to you guys today.
I heard, yeah. He looked awful snarly.
He's always like that, though. Like he's sort of like your grumpy uncle or something. Like I actually really like talking to him.
Yeah.
It's funny. I quoted him late. I wrote a story late in the season, and he went on this rant to me, like very expletive-filled rant about the idea of load management in basketball and how it's a joke, and like everyone talking about it in hockey doesn't know what they're talking about, and just F-bombs everywhere. And I wrote the story, and I quoted him a few times with a couple of those left in, but I took far more out than I left in because I was trying not to be gratuitous, but I wanted to show in the spirit of his quotes that he was really serious about this. And he walks off the ice in Long Island, and he's like, "Why did you put my swear words in there? My mom read that. What are you doing?" And like that to me is him. Like, I mean, seconds after walking off the ice, he's yelling at me in the stands that I left his swear words in. So
was he joking? Do you think?
No. He was a little bit mad, but not so mad that it's an issue between us. But like he was making a point, like, don't do that again.
Accosting you over word management.
I once this year, when he played his 1,000th game early in the season, it's the only other time I wrote a story with him all year. I mean, he's not a central figure on the team.
Right.
And so I used a couple things I had in my back pocket. I knew he drives a Hummer, and those haven't been in circulation in like 10 years.
He drives a Hummer in Toronto?
Yeah.
What a maniac.
So if you see one, it's probably Ron Hainsey.
Yeah.
And he wears basically only just straight black suits. And I use both as a way to explain, like, on this team with all these trendy young guys, he's clearly a man of another generation, right? So I mentioned that in the story, just casually, and I wasn't making fun of him. And one day during practice, he was pointing up at me and yelling like, "Why did you write what I drive?" and he honestly, that he was not kidding. He was mad
Oh yeah, I guess because
During practice?
during practice.
he just didn't want to be. I guess he didn't want his car to be pointed out at. 'Cause,
I
yeah,
guess, but I
Steve,
didn't put the license plate in or the color or.
Steve said it though. Who the hell else is driving a Hummer in Toronto now?
And it's a matter of fact. Like it's not like.
Yeah.
It's not
very
wrong.
Funny story.
And it was 600 words, 700 words into this story. Like it wasn't the lead. I didn't draw that much attention to it.
I missed it.
So
I didn't see that.
So today he gave us a little spice. Wouldn't talk about his future, and on the end he always said this. He's patting my arm as he walks out of the scrum, and I said, "Thanks for spicing it up, Ron." Because in all seriousness, I do like the banter with him because I think he really recognizes it. That this is all just entertainment. We're all just having fun here, and I think he knows that. I wasn't trying to out him too much with his car choices or whatever, but anyway, no idea if he's back. Why not? I think there's a case for it.
Oh boy, in that same role.
Well, you hope not, but
Yeah.
Well,
I've been hoping not for
Dude,
2 years.
I'm
they
open.
signed him 2 years ago.
I know.
I'm open to
Crazy.
Ron Hainsey coming back. But if he's Riley's defense partner,
No.
I think I might quit.
Yeah. I don't know.
He can only get worse, though.
I
That's
know.
the thing. It's only downhill.
Chris, we got to talk about
As
the
a
coaches.
6'7".
You know, Jim Hiller, DJ Smith, Mike Babcock, and we're going to start with
Oh yeah.
Jim Hiller because it's important that people know Jim Hiller looks after the power play, looks after a little bit more the offensive side. He had a great year 5-on-5, right? I mean, the Leafs had a great year 5-on-5.
The guy who always talks into his sleeve.
But after about November, that vaunted first power play unit that was going to be so dominant and was kind of stunk. And weren't as great anymore. And we're kind of average for the rest of the season. Nothing changed. They continue to score a ton of goals and outscore a lot of their problems, which is what the Leafs do.
And the second unit wasn't a factor.
No, it wasn't. Even when Nylander came in. Now that is partly because Nylander wasn't there and then didn't have a great start to the season. Then you got DJ Smith, who's on an expiring deal. You've got he's run a penalty kill that wasn't great and then didn't adjust in the playoffs. They weren't good. I mean, how do you have 40%? How do you let the Bruins get 40% of the power play goals?
And a lot of those goals were on home ice too.
Yep.
They got murdered.
From the same side of the ice.
Same side of the ice. Nobody's playing high. Like I said last show, Torrey Krug, nobody would even challenge him. And then you've got Mike Babcock, who is running the lines the way he's running them, which is obviously the major touch point after the series is over. It's funny. This is the first time where I've ever seen the average fan go looking at the ice time going, what the hell is going on here? How is this possible? So
it's
Yeah,
not
but they're
an
doing that
egghead-
because the media keeps talking
Sure.
about it. It's perpetuating
Sure.
the story, so
I
then the average
mean,
fan gets to it.
but
It's
that's
worthy
because it's a
of
story.
mention.
And it's important to note here that Sheldon Keefe
Oh, hey. We're unlocking the fireworks now. Steve's got the matches.
and Sheldon Keefe was just re-signed to a very expensive AHL quote-unquote coaching contract, like triple what the next closest AHL coach makes. So what's going on here?
I have no idea. And I feel like I should be honest about that. I am a little surprised that Kyle Dubas today didn't say he's bringing Mike Babcock back.
So explain that, because that was interesting.
Now, he didn't say he's firing him either, but he was given a chance unequivocally to say, this guy's my coach, or we loved what he did, or whatever, and he didn't say it. And I can't ignore that, doing the job I do. I mean, I'm a little bit at the mercy of just parsing words here from what was said at a couple press availabilities, but Kyle Dubas took a lot of ownership for what went wrong in this series. He even offered an olive branch to the coaching staff. He said, the reason the PK was no good is I didn't get them the right players.
And then what?
But
And then they played Zach Hyman on half a knee.
No, that's not the then what.
Well, sorry, then what?
But he said, I need time to think about things and I'll let you know, basically. And that's not what I expected to hear. Because then Mike Babcock speaks and you get no sense that he has any second thoughts really about what he did.
He would have done it the same way.
And
if you give him 10 opportunities, he would have done it the same way 10 times.
I don't want to give you guys the headline because I still find it hard to imagine they're going to let him go. But I can't sit here and say they won't. Like, I really...
There's doubt in your mind.
I don't know how else what I could leave with more than that today. I mean, that was probably the number one thought that I had in my mind as I left Scotiabank Arena today.
Wow.
Like, this guy might not be back.
And then lost in the whole Kyle Mike thing was Matthews getting an opportunity to extend an olive branch to Babcock. And he goes, well, ice time is a coaching thing. So, as a Leafs fan, here I am. The Leafs have lost in Game 7 to Boston in the first round again.
Did you watch the game?
Oh, you bet. Nazem Kadri.
Thought maybe there was something else on that night. Game of Thrones. Or...
He refuses to watch Game of Thrones.
The
Best show
Trailblazers
in the
game.
history.
Trailblazers game was pretty cool.
No, it was Kevin Pillar's return. Was what everyone was
Yes,
watching.
Yes, for sure.
The Blue Jays, who are doing so well.
So, Leafs lose in Boston, round 1, Game 7, again. We're talking about Nazem Kadri getting suspended in that series again. And we're complaining about Mike Babcock again. And coming out of it, we have Matthews and Babcock, potentially some friction again. And I'm just like, what has changed? The answer is nothing. So something has to change. And I think people too often...
But how confident are you that Sheldon Keefe is the guy?
I don't know.
That's the rub.
Because if you're
That's
not
the
confident in him, I don't look around the coaching world and say, they got to get
This
X.
guy and that guy.
Joel
yeah.
Quenneville would have been the guy.
Yeah.
Maybe, although it might be more the same as Mike.
Yeah, old school. I mean, so because of that, and Chris, there's no... I got to say, most of the series, a good chunk of this series, not most, a good chunk of the series is on the coaching staff and the way they deployed. You cannot...
Well, we didn't have to give them credit for when they built a 3-2 lead in the series. The Leafs look pretty darn good in the series.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They did.
They look
And there were
better than
games-
last year,
they
despite
were-
Game 7.
True. But they also have an elite goalie, a almost Norris candidate defenseman, and three guys up front. If Nylander was playing at top flight, I would say it would be four guys up front who are legitimate, great players. Bare minimum, they should be here. Bare minimum, they should look good in the series. Don't you think?
Yes. And when you hear the GM talking about all that has to change, I have to be better, and then you just don't hear the other guy saying that.
Because Mike Babcock didn't say that.
No.
He didn't take ownership of any of this.
And you just wonder, is this a relationship that can work with him and the management staff? And can they be on the same page enough to be going forward together? I don't know. I didn't expect to have that feeling today. I really thought that Kyle Dubas was going to come out and say, I see you, hockey Twitter, and stop it. We're talking about one of the best coaches in hockey. You know, you don't love every move that anyone makes, but when I look at the body of work here, this guy's great. Mm-hmm. He didn't say any of that. He said that the coaching staff generally did a good job. That was as far as he got on a compliment.
You know why he didn't make all those jokey jokes? Because this loss wasn't cute.
And he's pissed.
He's pissed, and I think this young rebuilding team, I think it's finally lost its baby fat. Like, it's not cute anymore. It's not part of the process anymore. You lost. And I think too many people
It's too old for a diaper.
Yeah.
And it just shit its pants.
Yeah.
And
it
they were
really
up
did.
1-0, and then 2-1, and then 3-2. So you had 3 opportunities.
And
to
1-0
really...
in Game 6.
And
Just
1-0
the
in Game
loudest
6.
that rink has been that I have
was
been there.
amazing.
And there was
amazing.
10 minutes. It was 10 minutes into the second, and they were still up 1-0. I think.
No, in the first
In
period.
the first,
Yeah.
sorry. And so there were so many opportunities, and they didn't
couldn't
do
kill a
it.
penalty. And the minute they got down 2-1, they lost their way for an entire period. Just got run over.
Yeah, on home ice. Like, but
I thought they were going to win that game. I got to be honest.
Sure did.
me too.
Sure did too. Yep.
I think too many people view Kyle Dubas as this numbers nerd who's like 16 and still in high school, and he wears his cute little suits and he has his glasses that he adjusts almost on cue on camera like a cartoon character. No, he's a grown man and a father who gets fucking mad. And I'm pretty sure he's hopping super pissed. I think you all need to stop picturing Kyle Dubas behind the scenes in your head like he's Jimmy Neutron. This guy is a grown man who does not handle losing very well.
And it's not just that they lost, it's the way. Like, how does Austin Matthews, really and truly, get 18 minutes in that game? How is Freddie Gauthier on the ice? How is Patrick Marleau on the ice?
18 minutes in a game where the Bruins didn't take
A penalty.
No, sorry. The Leafs didn't take a penalty.
Right.
Penalty kill. There were so many games this season where you go, well, they took 4 penalties. Nothing! Dick!
Like, how do you explain that?
8.
And how is Mike Babcock going to explain
It's
that? Or does he
inexcusable.
feel he has to?
It's inexcusable.
No, well, he was given the chance today, and he didn't express any, oh, yeah, he got lost on the bench or anything like that. I don't have the answer for you there. I mean...
That's interesting. Do you think Sheldon Keefe is the guy?
I'm not sure. I'm way less sure than I think you guys probably are.
I don't know.
I'm not
I think it's...
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I mean,
not
look,
sure.
you can't argue with his success in the OHL or the American Hockey League, but getting dropped into this team
Now?
right now to deal with the media pressure, to deal with you. This is why Kyle Dubas. He's it's sort of okay. One thing I want to say this: he's so lucky to inherit a team like this, but there's a huge cost that comes with it, and he can't screw this up. Like if this collection of Leafs players doesn't win a Stanley Cup under his watch, it will have been a failure. And on one hand, we all like to think like, oh, they have forever. But on the other hand, they don't.
No.
And, you know, he can't afford to let any year go by and just say, oh, whatever. You know, he's under pressure. Even as young as he is, he's not given this job for life.
Do you think that he would do the big three? And I'm not talking about Tavares in this, the young guys. Do you think he would have done them in a different order in retrospect? Like, do you think he would have started with Nylander or started with Matthews and Marner first and then done Nylander later if he had the chance to do it again?
He definitely would have got Nylander done. Because the contract that they gave him, they could have given it to him in training camp.
Yeah.
At the
And
end
he
of
would
the
have
day.
said yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then that
Could
was...
have
I mean,
done
look,
in,
we
like,
all have
July.
hindsight. I mean,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
but even today, Kyle, like I asked him that. What could you have done differently? And he said he wouldn't have let it go all summer where he was just kind of assuming it was going to work out. He said he would have pressed them more to get back and forth on numbers and just bridge the difference and get it done. You know, because it was entirely avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
And you blew 1 year Nylander away as a result of that. You know, but look, he's got to learn too. No one isn't going to make mistakes in his role. I just think he's not just going to sit by. That's why I'm saying this offseason, go like, this is a pretty good team. Yeah, we'll let Ron Hainsey go. We can't afford Gardner. We'll bring this guy up. No, I think there's going to be deeper decisions here, and one of them is the coaching staff. It might be just an assistant coach.
Well, DJ Smith's as good as gone, right? Because people
Well, I
want him
can't
to
say
be
that, but-
well, people want him to be a head coach, and that I'm not saying he'd be fired. His contract's
Did they though?
up. I mean,
Remember that thing we talked about earlier about how some people just put stuff on Twitter and it's not
Yeah.
always fact checked?
Okay,
I'm not
like Mark Hunter
sure.
was going to be the next big GM in the NHL.
I'm just not sure 100% there's teams out there lining up to hire him.
Well,
First of
why
all,
would they
that
be?
would have happened.
Why would they be? The Leafs were horrendous on defense and not great on the penalty kill either.
Right. I mean, look, he's got a great rep. He's a player's coach. He's got a great rep. The guys love him. I think there was an NHLPA poll where a lot of players said they like him, and he's a great guy. But I'm not sure truly that there's this market for him to work as a head coach somewhere. He'd be there. But he could be gone. You know, Sheldon Keefe, the answer might be Sheldon Keefe on Mike Babcock's bench. That might be where
That to me
we
makes a lot
go.
of sense.
That's what I
like
was
not
thinking.
just outright replacing Mike frigging Babcock with a rookie head coach.
But
to me, it makes a lot
allowing
of sense.
him to influence the coaching staff from within. Because we do know that that Sheldon and Kyle Dubas are aligned on how hockey should be played, how a team should be built. You know, these guys have worked together a long time between Sault Ste. Marie and with the Marlies. And it's then becomes not just Kyle talking to Mike Babcock. It's Kyle having someone in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might be where this ends up, because I really don't want the headline out of this to be that Mike Babcock's being fired.
No, we're just discussing it. Yeah,
But the fact that it's a possibility, the fact that I can't sit here and tell you he's not being fired is a surprise to me.
if you had though, we'd be losing our minds. You know that, like if you had come here and they had said Mike's our coach.
I thought it's a bit
question.
harsh that Steve put Mike's face on a dartboard outside, but I mean, it is his podcast. We'll just let him do what he wants.
Well, it is one of those things where if
What
I
was
think
the video the day Mike was hired?
Oh,
it was great.
Well, because it was. Remember, that was a different time. That was a completely
Yeah.
different time because for the longest time,
You were
was,
innocent.
Yeah, the Leafs are gonna get this guy and they're gonna get that guy, and they were dog shit. Like they were so bad. Had they maybe just won the draft lottery? No, that was
A year before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were as bad as they've ever been. They were the Peter Horacek year.
Yeah.
Where they won 11 of 50 games or something like that. And the Leafs are gonna get this guy. They're gonna get that guy. I'm like, yeah.
Simpler
yeah.
times in some ways.
Simpler time. They were garbage, and I knew it. I didn't have to. I wonder what the Leafs are. Nope, they're garbage. I just knew.
How did you do an LFR after every one of those games?
They were hard. So there was a guy who covers the team who at training camp the next year was like, "You were the only thing that got me through that stretch," because I found a way to talk about.
Who was that?
It was Mark Masters. Mark Masters. He's like, "You're the only."
Mark's a treasure.
Yes, because dude, how do you say, "Wow, they were really bad tonight" 40 times out of 50? 4 out of every 5 videos, and the ones that they won, I wasn't even happy they won, because I was like, well, you might as well go for McDavid at this point. So it was a simpler time. I was so used to them getting nothing that was promised, and then all of a sudden, there's that Babcock's on an airplane, and then they got him, and it was just so surreal seeing this guy I've seen with the Olympic team, and like win Stanley Cups.
So now you're like the hungry guy who got fed, and now you're commenting on the food.
However, the thing with Mike, and that's true. Mike's done a lot of great stuff here.
Life's not fair.
That
Look at Kadri.
Look at Kadri. I mean, Kadri's a great example.
He orchestrated that tank here perfectly too.
Oh yeah,
that was a masterclass in tanking. They lost like by 1 goal every game somehow.
Pumping and dumping Dion Phaneuf the way they did too, without retaining salary.
They turned Polak into assets. Daniel
Reimer's playing
Winnick
too
into
well.
assets.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, Winnick gone.
Sean Matthias into assets.
That's right. And the only reason they couldn't trade Parenteau, I think, because he got injured at the last second.
Yeah.
And he led their team in scoring that year. 20 goals.
Insane,
20 goals.
Insane. And then never played again. It's Mike has done some amazing things to change the culture here from one of a sort of a blasé, like.
But has he hit the ceiling is the question.
That's the question.
Can he take it further?
What's your personal opinion?
Should I maybe could I give you a starting point?
Let's give him an out.
No, I'm not looking for an out. I come on here to be honest with your listeners. I love.
But if you're not ready
everything
to answer
about
it, that's fine too.
I just don't. I have to be confident they're getting someone better.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying Mike Babcock's the only answer. I just don't know who are they hiring today that I'm feeling better about. I would like, in a perfect world, the GM and the coach to be more aligned. I think it's the right thing. I think the Leafs are honestly, as an organization, ahead of everybody else in the league and what they're doing with sports science, with what they're doing with player development. I've been reading a bunch of baseball books about the organizations like the Astros and the Cubs that did things in baseball that were never done, hiring NASA scientists basically to help build their teams. And I think the Leafs are doing that in hockey. And the only way you do that is that managing, or coaching in this case, becomes a function of the front office. That everybody from the president down to the guy doing video review in the back room,
All on the same page.
all understand this is how we play, this is why we play it, this is what we value, this is what other teams are missing. And I don't think that flow is perfect right now. I think that there is some friction there. And friction's okay too. You don't want a yes man. I think the Leafs could stand to have another coach other than Mike Babcock, but I don't know who that guy is. And until I could tell you who they should be hiring, it's hard for me to be saying they should be throwing him overboard, because I still think there's like 27 teams that are hiring Babcock tomorrow if they could.
So, could Sheldon Keefe, as an associate or whatever coach on the Leafs bench, maybe be the perfect sort of middleman? Because he's like a hockey guy or whatever, and it's not like him and Dubas are just like, we agree on everything. I'm sure they literally scream at each other
They've had
behind
fights.
closed doors.
But they have trust.
Right. So
They have a relationship.
could he maybe be a decent middle guy?
Conduit.
A conduit? Even a mediator?
I think so. I mean, it might be uncomfortable.
So what?
That's uncomfortable now.
Is it supposed to be comfortable?
No, I'm not. Hey, I'm just saying it might not be harmonious,
That's fine.
but
Doesn't sound like it's great right now.
I'll put it. Mike Babcock is on the clock. Like he
I
has
was
to
gonna
prove.
ask that, yeah.
He has to prove if he's back that he can work with the front office, that he can try what they wanted to try, that he can come a little bit in their direction at least. I think to keep his job. Now he's unscrupulous. Like he believes what he's doing is right. He wouldn't do it otherwise. He's not trying to lose, as much as you might feel that way at times.
But it seems like he's not trying to potentially see that he's not perfect.
In public, I don't know what's going on. In
He
private.
doesn't. I mean, you could see when Kyle Dubas has really pushed him to do stuff. like Nick Patan, like
Oh man, I was in Vancouver that night,
ooh, and you look at that.
the Levo night.
and he's just like, I didn't. He basically said I didn't have a lineup that could win because I didn't have a guy who could take faceoffs on the fourth line or something like.
Which is bullshit.
You were up
Tavares and
2-0.
Matthews, and you have Tavares and Matthews. Yes, you do. Yes,
Yeah,
you do.
you lost
And
because.
And this is what bothered me about today's press conference. To have the gall to stand up there and say, we don't have enough depth and we need to go get some, which is a fair statement in a vacuum, because every team can say that. We don't have enough depth, we need to get some. And then to roll the lines like he did when they didn't have the depth and they desperately needed to shorten the bench, and he desperately needed to put Nylander with Trevor Moore and Tyler Ennis, let's be honest. Like, if Patrick Marleau's back next year, Patrick Marleau's on the fourth line. Fine. I'm happy that he's great influence on the room. But Patrick Marleau is no longer a star player, and we can't treat him like that, right? Fair? He might
Fair.
be an NHL player.
Fair.
But is he above even replacement
I'm
anymore?
surprised. I will say this. Look, I was making this prediction when I'm out socially with the reporters. Like, he'll be on the fourth line by the end of this series. I was surprised that didn't happen.
He should have been.
Because the thing with the playoffs is you always learn what they really think. Because it's all or nothing to win. Again, I don't think anyone questions that Mike Babcock believed he was doing what would help them win. Now, we can disagree with that, and we obviously do. But I thought that was where we were going to see the truth. And he still believes in his guy.
Yeah, this playoff Marleau that never materialized. Because he's 39.
The fountain of youth never came.
Yeah.
I heard some things
Age is
like about,
undefeated.
yeah. Well, Matthews didn't have like a perfect game 7 and this and that, and is the
He probably had the
defensive-
best chance to score that didn't result in a goal.
Yes, that right
Yeah.
across the crease.
Almost
Oh.
tied it. Almost tied the damn thing. Oh, Chris, you're killing me.
But I'm just saying, it's the nature of being a goal scorer. But man, people he only had 5 in the previous 4 games, and he hit 2 posts in the series.
That's why you gave him 25 minutes. He had 5 in the previous 4
I
games.
know.
Who does that?
But like, he didn't have a perfect game 7. Okay, you're losing. You're losing, and that's your best goal scorer. Ride him like a damn pony.
Like what they do in baseball. They roll the starters out, like what Jesse said. Just roll them out.
And they didn't roll the starters
Well,
out.
yeah. Now in pitchers in baseball, they pitch them in like 7 straight games
Yeah.
for 2 innings,
Doesn't
and like
matter. There's no tomorrow.
there's
if you
no
lose.
bullpen anymore. It's just
No.
like all your starters for 2 innings every
Let's
game.
just go.
He tried Nylander with Moore and Ennis with 6.5 minutes to go in the series. Like,
Like, why?
I just didn't see any creativity.
So that
I just
brings,
saw none.
That
What?
brings
What
me
are you
to
smiling?
Oh,
I just love seeing your passion, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that it's ended in a loss, but it's actually like it's charming how much you care.
Well, it's okay. Listen,
Because I don't have that rooting interest, right?
I wouldn't call myself a hockey mind for sure, but like a lot of
Put that on a T-shirt.
There's a
I
mind who
wouldn't
loves
call
hockey.
myself a hockey mind, but there were a lot of things. There have been a lot of things over Babcock's tenure that he finally tried, and they worked. And people were like, "Hey, look, it worked!" And hockey Twitter just screams, "We know, we know, we
Matt
told
Martin.
you."
Or he
Matt Martin.
or he would set up.
But that
things
was ruthless with Matt Martin.
Yeah, that was just
Yeah.
He
all of a
played every
sudden.
game, and then he didn't play again, basically.
But
Yep.
but
And
he
that's what I
wasn't good
thought we
enough.
were going to get with Patrick Marleau. Not maybe scratch, but I thought he was going to be like on the third line all year, and then just 6 minutes a night
And
in
what
the
would it take?
playoffs.
What would it take to healthy scratch him? Put him in a Martin jersey? How about a Medano jersey? Should we try that one?
Have you seen the suggestion that he might play with the Marlies next year?
Marleau?
Yeah.
What?
No.
Who said that?
What corner of the internet are you
I
hanging
heard
out
it
in,
on
bud?
a local radio station
Oh
here
yeah, no.
that he might go down to Coca-Cola Coliseum next year.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, to
No.
watch.
Yeah. He'll
Well,
laugh you out of the.
He might do that, but that would be a very vicious move by the organization.
There's
wouldn't
there's
show up
no
for that. He
shot.
wouldn't need to.
They'd barely save any money.
Well, they would save 1 point something million.
They would never.
I just don't think they'd embarrass him, honestly.
No, they
No.
wouldn't.
I think they would be scratching him on the regular with the Leafs, but way before they ever did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
But
no chance.
it's no one. I mean, actually, he's a no move. I don't even think it's possible. They can't even put him on waivers.
Oh, it's a no move.
Yeah, they can't even put him on waivers. So
So okay, then here's another thing that
he's like a cruise ship docked right now. You ain't moving that thing, man.
boy.
Cool.
But
cool,
you
cool.
look at the situation with leadership. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about Mike Babcock. We're talking about potentially having Sheldon Keefe behind the bench. You know, some of the players are not perfectly pleased. And I put some of this on the players. They shut it off from mid-February to the end of March. They really did. Like, that was a horrendous 6-week stretch. That sucked.
I know Gardner's important to the team, but Jesus
They're not.
Lord.
He's not that important. Like, no player should be that important.
What was it, like a stretch of, 5 straight games they allowed 6 or more goals?
That was.
And they somehow won?
That's a
Like,
that's
7-6 against Philly.
Yeah,
That was
really.
unbelievable. They go up 7-5 and then allow the 6th one. I'm like,
JVR's hat trick.
Yeah. Yes.
are you freaking kidding me?
It had to be a hat trick too.
God
Couldn't just be a
bless the
goal.
Philadelphia
JVR was
Flyers.
+5 in that game.
Oh my God, that's the only.
His
time in
team
life.
lost 7-6 and he was +5. It's the reverse Lebda.
Yes, I love it.
That's unbelievable.
So they shut it. The Leafs, quite frankly, the players shut it off. As soon as the playoff thing was locked up, they were like, you know what? And so I put some of that on the coach, but I put some of that on being youthful hockey players who were like, well, I don't really want to take I don't want to take a puck to the face right now because I got to save that for the playoffs. Now I think they know what happens when you play. They've now played 2 Game 7s in a row, not in their building. Do you not think that they've learned from that a little bit? And second to that, and I'm going to let you answer in just a second here.
I'm not even aching. I'm just listening.
If you're Kyle Dubas and you're Brendan Shanahan, and even if you're Mike Babcock, are you tired now of not having a captain? Like, if you want to have a guy who speaks for the players, there must be somebody in that room who's a fucking captain at this point.
It
right?
ends here. Yeah.
Okay, we're done with this shit, right?
This team lost its baby fat, as you put it. Mm-hmm. The cool thing about next year is the kids aren't kids anymore. And it's Matthews at 10-6 or 11-6, sorry. And it's going to be Marner at whatever Marner makes, assuming he's back. It's Nylander making 7 and having to show up. Like, no room to hide.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't perform, this team isn't winning.
I hope he scores in the first game.
Yeah.
For the love of
And
God.
I think it's Matthews as the captain. I really do.
Why do you think that? And do you think that can...
Because he's the franchise, man.
Can that influence Mike Babcock too? If Matthews goes, okay, I'm the captain now. Now we're actually having a conversation. I'm not the kid anymore. I'm now not necessarily like they're not peers, but now he's the captain. And
The
deserves
relationship's
respect.
different.
Has to, right?
Yeah, the relationship has to be different. Because literally the captain has a functional purpose in like planning out how they're going to travel. Like, do we fly at 3 p.m. this day, or do we go after the game? Like, should we have a day off? Like, a good coach relies on his captain to get a feel for the room. And what do they need? Like, do we need more work? Do we need an ass kicking today, or do the guys need a day off? That kind of stuff. And there has to be a trust, obviously, built into that the captain's giving you what you need. So I'd be stunned if it isn't Matthews. Honestly, for all the debate we can have, the organization changed the day he came here.
Yep.
And he's the center, and he's making the money, and he wants to be the guy. I don't know what the public perception is of him. I know he can be a bit moody or whatever in the media at times, but like this guy wants to be like Kobe Bryant. This guy wants to be, he wants the ball in his hand for the last shot. I just think he's the guy, and I think if you're the Leafs, you're winning or losing with him. And, I talked to a few players that left the team that had been with the team. I just heard universally from them that if you're picking one of those guys, it's Matthews. I'd be stunned if it's not him. And it's no disrespect to John Tavares. I think Tavares could do it fine. But I think he knew when he came here to win with those guys. Like, there's something about where you come from. Mm-hmm. It's a weird part about sports. You want to add a few guys from the outside, like free agents and that. But for the most part, you really want to build your own culture within. And I think you need that as a cornerstone of your team. And to me, he's the one. But
Okay.
I'm not making that decision, though, either.
Who's making that decision?
Kyle.
Kyle's making that
And
decision.
he studied it, man. Like, so Kyle Dubas really loves reading books about all the other sports. And he knows about the culture of how the Yankees name a captain and how, the All Blacks rugby team, probably the most famous rugby team in the world, they have a whole culture about how they build a legacy and how they pass things down. Like, he's looking at this not even just through the hockey prism. And
Which is good because the hockey prism's dated.
right, and they want to do things better. They want to take best practices from other sports, right? And I think that's why he didn't want to rush to name a captain. And I think this is the right time because shit's hitting the fan. The guys are getting paid now. They're going to have a tougher time with secondary players. Mm-hmm. They need the guys to really puff out their chests and be what they're supposed to be. And so I think that they're kind of turning the keys over to the kids here. Like, Austin, you got the driver's license now, bud. Take the keys and drive.
Do they do it after Mitch Marner signs his deal, though?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
You got to do it when you know what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't.
It's
have
not
that
even
hanging
about
over your head.
like trying to fool Mitch. I think it's about
Mitch must know.
Should do it on the same day.
Well, I mean,
No,
Mitch
that
Marner's family did take a big old dump on Matthew's big day,
Right.
on his extension. That night,
actually be
his
pretty
agent
fitting.
came out and said, "Well, Mitch, that's a terrible contract," and all the things that he said. He fell on his face, his agent,
All the
with
timing
all
of
that PR that he did.
a fart at a birthday party.
And imagine, you're Mitch Marner the next day. Your agents come out and talked all this shit, and you got to face Austin, your buddy, and your agent has talked all this shit about your new contract, which is $50 million.
Thanks, man.
How did that go?
I don't know. Why are we talking about this again?
Because we're mad.
I know, but
I mean, we do.
I just don't know how we went from the captaincy to that.
Yeah, well, we got to. Sorry, we got off track.
I do
Captaincy-
think that everything has to be settled though, because if Mitch doesn't sign, there might be another trade, maybe some. But I just think once they have kind of the summer set, I'm guessing a July 10th press conference or something.
Let's get this done.
That's how I believe they'll do it.
Okay.
Now they haven't told me this, but you hang around long enough and watch and talk to people, you kind of get a sense. And I just feel like the wind's blowing in the direction that it's time to remove that question. And do you know what? I was very proud of the Toronto media today.
Why is that?
There wasn't one question about the captaincy, because I got to say
Wow.
the questions get a little
Annoying.
annoying, and they've been asked a lot. Like, who's going to be the captain? Who should be the captain? I saw Joe Bowen weighs in out of nowhere, like, it should be Captain Morgan, and all this stuff. Anyway, I'm glad that didn't. It's fine to discuss it here, but I'm glad it wasn't wasted as one of the 12 questions at the year-end press conference.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we got to ask you everything while we have you, right? Because
It's fair enough for us to sit here all night talking about this, but I just don't think in that, because I think we only get Kyle in front of a microphone so often a year, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
And you always waste a few questions to just the terrible questioners, like in every press conference.
Did you just roll your eyes?
This isn't a sports thing or a hockey thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I covered news in my old days. There's always someone who's just on some other tangent. You're like, no one on earth will use that answer. But thank you for wasting that minute of our allotted 10 minutes.
Do you know who it's going to be pretty much every time?
Oh, I do now. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you figured out why I'm never in those press conferences.
Can I guess? It's usually the local news person.
yeah, in the playoffs. but to be fair to them, it's because they are looking for something totally different. Than
Yeah.
they actually want to know what the players have to say to the fans. But come on, you always. That's the local news thing. That's the crutch. What do you say to the fans about Game 7 tonight? What would you tell your fans? That's always the question. I'm like,
Right. It's like in entertainment when you go to
Brett
do a
Hull
red
said it
carpet.
best.
Oh, what is it?
fuck the fans. That's the way you have to think as a player. No offense.
Yeah, of course.
You do your thing and people react, right? It's also fuck the media. That's the way the players think.
Sure. Yeah.
There's not many of those
No.
guys that liked seeing us, right? I mean, I don't even know that it's personal. It's just, it's our job to be like, hey, you did that thing that wasn't great. What do you think about that?
They're there to win
You know,
games. Yeah.
It's a weird job.
It's a
when you
weird
really
job.
Think about it.
If I'd have thought about it deeper when I was a teenager, I might be doing something else. But
Could be podcasting with us, my friend.
who knew that was a job?
Adam in
That's
grade 11 knew that was a job.
I wish I had known Adam in grade 11.
I'm lucky I did.
In entertainment, the worst question, and I hate this fucking question, and yet every entertainment source does it, and they tell you to ask it is, what do you have to say to Canada? When we went down to the Grammys, hey, Canada wants to say hi, and you know what? I'm ashamed to say I asked it once, and it was the only reason was Ellie Goulding was standing right there. She was not talking to anybody in the media. Entertainment Tonight in the United States, Access Hollywood, they all missed out on her, and I was like, Ellie, what do you have to say to Canada? Will you speak to your Canadian fans? And she's like, well, only because you've been so polite. And she came over and talked to us, so we got her. But I fucking hate that question, and I hate myself for asking it that one time.
And I should be clear, sometimes I benefit from the dumb question.
Really?
Because sometimes a dumb question gets an amazing answer, and it's a question I never would have asked. And I, of course, get to use that quote in my articles or put it on Twitter. So I still benefit from someone else looking like an idiot sometimes. Because sometimes someone blows up on the dumb question, and it's great material.
What kind of friggin'
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Bill
but
yeah.
it's an annoyance.
Yeah.
And look, I've been doing this a long time. Sometimes I'm the one asking the dumb question. I'd like to think more often than not. Though.
We had a random tangent. I think it was after Game 3, and this is completely off board, but I think you're going to laugh. Is it time for the Leafs to reacquire Phil Kessel? And the reason I ask is we're like, well, who could they trade Kadri for? Because they're so mad,
Did
right?
you guys get into the Crown Royal for that?
Yeah,
or
we
what?
did. And we were wondering, like, hey, flip Kadri to Pittsburgh, and we'll take Kessel back, and then he's only $6 million Kessel.
Retain on him, and then you could form the single least likable line in Toronto sports history of Nylander, Kessel, and I don't know who else. Marleau.
All right.
Gardner.
You bring
Gardner
Larry
on the
Murphy
wing.
back from retirement, and you put him on the left.
Doug
wing.
Gilmore returns.
That would be great.
No, I said least likable.
In all honesty,
Fans love him.
in
I
all
love him
honesty,
too.
Guys like Connor Brown, who I think are taking. Connor Brown wasn't great, but Connor Brown is what he is, and we know that he was close to being moved at the deadline, or we've heard that he was close to moving.
He was on the table.
There's
heard-
interest in him. I think
and
he's
we
a
heard-
desirable commodity.
So that's interesting.
He's not a
Edmonton.
bad player.
No, he's not. But there's some cap space you free up right there, right?
Potentially. I'm sure they'll revisit that. I don't know that the Leafs want to get rid of him, but he's a bit of a luxury now. Paying someone that plays predominantly on your fourth line $2 million when you have a cap issue and you're paying everyone else 11.
But in Edmonton,
Well, in Edmonton, he might be playing with McDavid, man. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule that
like
out.
30-goal man Connor Brown in a hurry. But we'd heard
But they might keep him. Like, I don't know.
Well, Babcock loves his life, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, did you hear anything about? Because what we heard at the time was that it was going to be some sort of Adam Larson package, and then,
No, it was way less desirable than that.
okay,
It was like
Matt
Matt Benning.
It was
Yeah.
Matt Benning. Oy.
And I think the Leafs were interested in Jujhar Khaira,
I like Jujhar Khaira.
but they didn't do that. Edmonton didn't want to do that.
Right,
But they weren't talking blockbuster.
oh,
with
it
him.
wasn't a big thing. Okay, just thought I'd ask. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
No, Adam Larson could be had maybe in another deal, but
What does it take to get him? He's the guy. He's got the Taylor Hall name attached, right? And GMs get sensitive about that. Although Chiarelli's gone.
I think he'll probably be moved, just because they have to move on from him. They've got giant cap issues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he's coming to the Leafs, but there's a fit there for sure. I think he would benefit from the change of scenery too. So he had a tough go. His dad died suddenly during a visit to Edmonton a year ago. I just think that he's a candidate to be moved. I don't know if the Leafs have that much interest or not.
Ron McLean famously has compared this playoffs to the legalization of weed in this country.
I know. I nearly fell off my couch when I heard that. You got the zigzag reference in there. Like,
It's almost as though Ron McLean may have smoked a doobie or two. Big music guy. I don't want to say he has it.
it's
yeah.
legal.
Yeah, it is legal, so maybe he has. Tampa, Calgary, Pittsburgh, Washington, Nashville, Winnipeg, all out. Those are big teams with big names.
We could have made big money if we had known that 2 weeks ago.
I know. So
We wouldn't even be working right now. We'd have all the Crown Royal and just be on a beach somewhere.
I would be in a Speedo because I would have that kind of money. That I'd be comfortable in a Speedo.
You're all going to tell me I look good in this.
Yeah, because I'm that rich and you're all here on my dime.
Yes.
Of those teams, and I guess we'll go through them because I want to ask you about the rest of the NHL. Who do you think makes we got eliminated too quickly, we're going to make a stupid trade? Who's the team that's rearing to do something real stupid, like the Blackhawks trading Panarin after getting swept by the Predators? Still the worst trade in recent memory.
Pittsburgh,
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
yeah, buddy. He's
but
right.
who?
Malkin.
No.
It's out there.
What?
It's out there.
Malkin?
I'm not saying he's moving, but I'm not saying he's moving.
Is it because they believe that they can bring something back to make the team better?
I think they believe they've hit a wall, and they're just trying to find one more cup out there before Crosby's statued out front while he's still an active member of the team.
That's the interesting thing about having a player the caliber of Sidney Crosby is I don't think you can ever go into rebuild mode because you have Sidney Crosby. You've got to always be going
At
for
most, they'll do it like 1 year at the very end of his career when he's just
Yeah.
it. And that's
Lanny,
different.
when he's his Lanny McDonald year.
right. Or even like Mario came and played half of Sid's first year.
Right.
Like he's
And then
still-
retired in January and was like, "We're gonna lose 1,000 games this year. I can't do this."
I've had enough.
Yes, I'm gonna go back to the owner's suite where they got the nice red wine. And
Enjoy it.
two players bail that year. It was him and Ziggy Palffy.
yes.
Yeah, they were both just like, you know what? Hockey's not for me. Penguins are bad.
And then next year they're in the first round. Next year they're in the cup final. Next year they win a cup.
Unreal. Oh, that trajectory sounds lovely.
Yeah, the Leafs once had that trajectory.
I would love that very, very
To
much.
the Leafs, though. That's the way it works.
Another team I think is poised to do something just kooky.
Nashville.
Whoa, okay.
Well, the Schvill, for sure. I want to hear about that
Let's
before I
talk
say
about
my
Nashville.
name.
So Nashville is the other team run by a 70-year-old man, which I'm not actually throwing out there as ageism, but like in all seriousness, if you're Jim Rutherford or David Poyle, you're not managing for 5 years down the road. Like literally,
This is it for you.
right. And I think that Nashville, in all honesty, I think they should manage themselves that way. They've done everything much like San Jose, but win the cup. They've built some really great teams. They've got lots of great players, but they haven't got over the hump.
And they did not look great in the first round.
They got this new defenseman named Dante Fabro who looked pretty darn good. And they got tons of D. And maybe it's PK, maybe it's Ryan Ellis.
Do the
maybe...
Leafs not look like a great trading partner for them, though?
Yeah. Remember when Mike Babcock and Lou Lamoriello went to a playoff game there 2-3 years ago?
Well, that was to see Ron Hainsey, though, wasn't it?
It was an Anaheim-Nashville series.
Oh.
That's right.
Now, since Anaheim has purged some of those D,
Right.
Shea Theodore and the like, Brandon Montour, but it was a good D series for the Leafs to be scouting just in case. So I think that they are poised to be active. I think Vegas has an owner who has tasted a lot of success in 2 years and is also in his 70s and has said, do the thing.
And who is super duper pissed. And we haven't even gotten to that.
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll talk about that
with
in a
good
bit,
reason.
Yes.
But
But I could see them being, they're not, like they're managing for tomorrow.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah.
And why not? If
Well,
you've gotten
it's
this
great
lucky,
if you're
just
a
go
fan.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? It doesn't really matter. Just keep going. Ride it.
Right?
And you also you stole Mark Stone.
Well, look at Columbus.
And
they
you
are
stole
like,
Pacioretty.
they're the spirit
Well, they
animal
steal
now
it.
for these teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just let's roll the dice. Draft schmaft.
Which was good for the league, I think, by the way. Them being in the second round, Jarmo Kekalainen taking the risks he took, not even being guaranteed a playoff spot, full marks, and also I think that changes the way GMs look
Do you know
at
what's the
going
ultimate baller move for them? Win the Stanley Cup and just don't even show up at the draft. Because they got no picks
for it.
anyway.
Yeah, 3 and 7, right?
Just like party right through the draft.
That'd be amazing.
It would be awesome.
Phone in your fourth rounder.
I'm not
or
sure.
whatever.
I think they have like 1/4 and 1/5 or something. Like
Yeah,
they
I
have,
want to
third
say
and
a
a
third and a seventh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3rd and a 7th. Which I'm surprised it's even a third.
Don't even bring your jerseys.
like if Yarmo wants, I'll go up to the mic and read it for him. And he doesn't have to show up.
You're putting your name in there?
I'll be there anyway.
Okay.
He's got my number. Let's do it.
Have Matt Duchene do it.
Winnipeg has a lot of choices to make. That's another team you're like, wow, there's going to be some turnover there.
Right, but I see that more as like they're hemorrhaging talent because of the cap, and it's more about trying to just what version of this team can we keep together?
Right.
Like I don't.
Line is a part of that?
Yes.
Truba?
No.
There's another guy.
So you
Sure would
trade
look good
his
on the Leafs.
RFA rights.
Probably. I don't think they want to go back to another arbitration hearing with him. This has been. It's been like the thing that never got resolved. Right. Yeah. It's like if you have a partner and you fight about the same thing over and over again, and then you get good for 3 months, and then you're fighting about the same thing again. That's them with Jacob Trouba. Like
In there.
Yeah, I have two once upon a time. Not the woman I'm married to.
No,
let's be
me
clear. But I know what that looks like.
Yeah, and-
where it's like an issue that you never truly resolve, and I feel like that is Jacob Trouba as a Winnipeg Jet. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone.
Do you see what like that?
He could fit here theoretically.
Well, and that's the thing. There's two teams that you mentioned there, Nashville and Winnipeg, who've got great D that could potentially be out the door. The Leafs, that's what they need. They need right-handed D. Myers is a free agent.
Problem with Trouba is they got to pay him.
They got to pay him. So and are the Leafs willing to pay the price to acquire him because he's not an unrestricted free agent? Are they willing to part
Depends
with
on the
Sandin,
price.
Liljegren, Sandin,
Yeah,
those
he's
guys,
another
like-
guy who he can put up points, but like his numbers aren't like awesome, like in his own end, sort of thing.
I'm just asking.
I don't know if he cures. What
Are they
ails him.
looking if they're going for it? Are Sandin and Liljegren in the air, or are they guys that they see stepping into the roster next year?
I don't know. I don't see them trading those guys, honestly. Maybe Liljegren.
Bracco?
They love Sandin. Like Sandin,
Yeah,
like they're drawing hearts on his picture in the front office, I think.
Okay.
he's the top prospect in the organization.
For now, like there's no chance. It would have to be a home run trade for him to be included, because the counter to all this is that if you're paying all these players, you need someone on an entry level deal to do something.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's next season for him necessarily. He might play games next year, but probably reasonably a year from next year, 2020, 21, where you're thinking he's a full-time member of the team. And so you need that pipeline. And they hope this Mac Hollowell, who's just come and played for the Marlies out of the OHL, could get there. But you have to be careful about depleting your pipeline too much, I think. So I don't see Winnipeg doing anything dumb. I just think they're going to have to trade guys. Tampa's going to have to trade guys or let everybody walk in free agency. But Nashville, Vegas, Pittsburgh, those are like
They're getting cagey.
They got their cowboy hat on. And they're like, let's let it ride. Let's see what we can do here.
Well, speaking of cagey and cowboy hat, I'm stunned you didn't mention the Flames. Because they seem poised to do something dumb.
Well, they did with James Neal already.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a free agent signing. That's different.
They got to move on from him, right?
That's
Like,
different.
No, he's getting traded. No?
No, they're
no,
keeping him.
you gotta rehabilitate that. That's one of those deals where I think it's so bad. You can't you got to rehabilitate.
He gets
that.
one more tour around Calgary to see if it might go a little better. in
One
year
more
two.
stampede.
And hopefully dries out after the Stampede.
Yeah, he keeps some of his teeth.
I've never been to the Stampede.
It is a dangerous place, especially if you're single. Actually, it's more dangerous if you're married. They don't call it cheating; they call it stampeding.
Oh,
Did you make that up?
Nope, that's a thing they say in Calgary. And something that happened right after I got there, they had a campaign because every year in Calgary they were running out of STD meds. So they had a campaign instead of plenty of fish, it was plenty of Sif. I'm not kidding. If you're from Calgary, 2010, 2011, you remember the commercials? We were running them on Virgin Radio when I was doing mornings. And they had a full dating profile set up where they had videos of people, young, attractive people going, here's my dating stat. I'm this and I like long walks on the beach. And as they're talking in these videos, the signs of syphilis would show up on their face. So red dots and rot and all the things, all the bad stuff, because they actually ran out of syphilis medication the year before. And there's a stampede bump at the hospital. If you ask anybody who's a nurse out there, they'll tell you that 10 months after the stampede happens, just happens to be a bunch of babies born. And it's because the entire city stops working, drinks, parties, and has sex for 2 weeks. That's what happens.
You've just taken us down a weird alley. bud.
Welcome to this podcast, sir. That's exactly what happens.
Adam does that. I'm just amazed
what do
it
you
had
think,
nothing to do with the Second World War.
What do you think went wrong with Tampa?
I'm just saying, go Calgary first. Go Calgary first. But Calgary's just a wild place, man.
So Tampa has done an unfortunate thing for all future teams. In the second last week of the regular season, they had a 4-day break in their schedule, and they gave the boys the plane and allowed them to go to Miami for 2.5 days, where they golfed and had some revelry and had the beach. And then they lost in 4 games.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And
Is this breaking news?
I don't know if it's breaking news. It might low level be out there. I know it happened for sure. Now, it's one of those things. I don't think that's why they lost. But it has removed the chance that that will ever be viewed as a good way to use time if you're a great team.
Right.
Now, had they won the Stanley Cup, they would have been talking about how we bonded there. That was the refreshing thing we needed before the playoff grind. And every good team could have potentially had that kind of glory in their life.
Would have been great.
But they went and ruined it for everybody.
I'd like to know from a Tampa fan, who was the best looking Lightning player in that series? Because, dude, they all stunk. And I couldn't believe
Everything went wrong all at once. Hedman
it was
got
stunning.
injured the last game or second last game of the season.
Yeah, and he was
Played 2 games where he clearly wasn't right.
right.
Yeah.
And then didn't play the rest of the series. Kucherov loses his shit, gets suspended.
He was terrible. Yep.
That was triggering for me as the Raptors fan in me, because that just reminded me of DeMar DeRozan.
Oh,
That was DeMar DeRozan for me.
And they used to win for fun in the regular season, right? Like they would just sort of be like, let's do this, and they would do it. And they're up 3-0 in game 1, and they're about to win for fun again, and then they lose, and then they don't win again the rest of the season.
and they had. I watched a decent amount of Tampa games, and rarely did I ever come away with the sense that they were unbeatable, because it's weird. They seem to take nights off, even the ones where they won. It seemed like they toyed with their food too much, and they were never.
It's weird to say about a team that's at the all-time wins record.
I know.
yeah.
I
It
know.
is.
You know?
But there were a few games where I kept saying heading into the playoffs, if Montreal makes it, Tampa could be in trouble, because Montreal played Tampa so
Didn't
well.
they lose 16 games in regulation? I think they
Yeah,
were
and
62,
four
16,
overtime or
and
shootout.
4.
Oh my God.
Something ridiculous like that. Yeah. They lost 20 games overall and 16 in regular.
Like, this is not relevant now, but had the Leafs won the Cup, they would have got to 62 wins on the entire year.
Wow.
Because they had 46
Wow.
in the regular season.
That's unbelievable.
So they couldn't have surpassed Tampa's win total even if they won a Cup.
But there were a few games against Montreal I remember in particular. I think it's because they were on a Saturday or an ice surfing night or whatever. where I was just like, okay, Montreal's playing really feisty tonight, but Tampa's doesn't give a shit. There were a bunch of games where it just didn't seem like they
The
cared.
universe got robbed, though, of a Tampa-Toronto series.
It would have been great.
You will not let that go, eh? You've been on that train for a couple years now.
Just because it would have been the all-offense.
Yeah.
It
the
would have
video
been
game
like,
series.
yes, it would have been like
Fun.
Amazing. I think it would have been fun.
Oh, yeah.
And Tampa's got lots of good storylines, and it just would be chaos. Like Boston and Toronto, everyone's going through the motions. Oh, we've been through this. We know each other.
We're a little tired
I
of it
sort
now.
of feel like with like Brad Marchand or whatever sees the Toronto media, it's just like, oh yeah, this is like old home week, you know? But there would have been like a degree of unknown with that series.
Stamkos not wanting to sign here.
Yeah,
That could be a
throw
storyline.
snakes at him. Take that, Dick.
Sure showed you. It is funny. I did see a tweet today that all the teams that Tavares met with are in the second round.
Well, and didn't he meet
Boston,
with Tampa,
San
though?
Jose, Dallas,
Did
Islanders.
he meet with Tampa?
Yes, and Tampa.
Okay, so
Yeah, so
no,
they
no.
left that out
They left that out.
conveniently.
But that was a good
though.
tweet anyway. I was
Yeah,
like,
great tweet.
that's still pretty good.
Frig off with your inaccurate tweet. I have never sent an inaccurate
but-
tweet, ever. Not once.
But yeah, what do you do if you're Tampa? What do you do now?
You just come back with the same team.
Yeah, okay.
I think, more or
Brayden
less.
Point's tough.
Like, do you think he accepts the discount, or does he go,
Yes.
no, F it? Why?
Because no player in history has played in Tampa and been like, I don't want to play in Tampa anymore.
Nah, true.
It's like the best lifestyle going.
It sure is.
The team's great. The tax thing's great. The weather's great. The team's great. The team's great.
And you know what? The city's great.
It's
the city's
awesome.
Like, it's a great city.
There's a good reason why Steven Stamkos looked over the ledge and went, nah, I'm good. Like, you should see the places these guys live. Like, it's outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
And no one cares in not a bad way who they are. Like, it's that's good living, man. And let's face it, they're going to win a Stanley Cup. That team, I think.
They're going to...
Or die
That's
trying.
what I thought
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still, even like losing the guys are going to lose. They're right there. And
'Cause, like,
Julian
it's
Brisebois is a smart GM.
It's like Killorn and, like, I think, like, Tyler Johnson or something like that. It would be guys that they'd have to trade.
He's
Brian
got a no
Callahan's
trade,
deal.
Tyler Johnson.
He's got a, that's what I mean, though.
And he sees all the things I see about Tampa. So maybe he's not waving that.
Callahan? Is Callahan done?
But like they have Coburn, Strawman, Girardi, all UFAs. Like they're just not going to be able to keep everyone.
Okay. But,
But
they probably...
they just like invent players. There's like some guy like
Yanni Gourde.
Yanni
Yanni
Gourde.
Gourde really is a creative player. You're 100% right.
And it keeps happening. Eric Cernak. It's like all of a sudden they got this monster right hand shot that's like
and they somehow robbed. I mean, Montreal benefited too, but they got Sergachev just because, and Sergachev takes another step forward. He looks great.
You know what?
they dumped Ben Bishop's deal and got that Cernak. He's like 21, right shot, 6'4", playing in the NHL.
Vasilevsky makes 3.5.
Oh, that's
Like, that's-
ridiculous. That's
unfair.
unfair.
Anthony
That's
Sorelli.
about James.
So
Really,
when like
man.
Braden Point signs for like $4 million, you're just gonna go like, oh come on,
And Mitch Marner
guys.
would be like, nothing less than 12, please.
So I've been beating this drum for a while now. Braden Point's contract will be insufferable. It's going to be the most.
It's gonna break your heart.
It's going to be.
He's such an easygoing guy, and for all the reasons I mentioned, I'd be stunned if it's not setting new precedents or anything. I think he's just gonna
Really?
take something pretty fair and
We're not going to get that luxury here.
more or less than Nathan McKinnon.
more. The McKinnon contract, that's of another era at this point.
It really
Yeah,
is
it
a
is.
unicorn. Yeah.
But there was a few guys in that era that got in the sixes, right? Like Pasternak and Scheifele and McKinnon.
Sagan was on a pretty sweet deal.
And
for
they
a
all
while.
signed in around that time, and that was about what the Taylor Hall contract was.
Yep.
It was kind of the second contract if you're pretty good but not amazing, like not the absolute star of the league.
And McKinnon wasn't at that time.
No.
He had a 16-goal season, I think.
And that seemed like a lot for a 16-goal guy.
Yes.
$6.5 million? 16 goals?
But now, and look at, I think it's great the guys are getting paid.
Yeah, for sure. They deserve it.
Look, what do we talk about? Stars. We talk about the kids. Like, no offense to the olds like me, but like everyone loves seeing the new players come in and just reinvent the league. Like, it's awesome.
It was like the Team
And those
North
guys should
American
get
young
paid
guys.
because, frankly, their careers, they have an unguaranteed amount of time what they can be doing. So I like this trend. And then the older guys are going to have to hang on and play for nothing and come to Toronto and win a cup.
Chris Johnson, what does the Stanley Cup final look like to you this year?
Did you have a bracket?
No.
Okay.
If you did, would it be destroyed?
Yes.
Did you predict any of these first round winners?
I don't remember. I did pick them in like Sportsnet made me pick them. I was like out somewhere, and I just like gave 8 really quick answers without thinking about it. To the point that I haven't looked up what I picked.
Engels has let the entire world know that he was the only person at Sportsnet who picked Carolina.
I love that Engels gets one thing right, and he's got to splashes it on Instagram, puts it on Twitter. It's like blind squirrel finds nut, brags about it. Like, come on. Come on, Eric.
He's got to change his Twitter name now. Blind Squirrel.
Now we're going to have Eric on to fire a shot back.
Come on, Eric. You're better than that. But predictions are terrible. Yeah. The 8 teams we're left with is insane.
Who do you like, then?
I have your picks.
Did I get any right?
If you'd like to go over
I know
them.
I picked the Leafs in 7, which didn't happen.
Oh, you're adorable.
So Tampa, Columbus, Chris Johnson. So you had Tampa in 6.
I at least gave Columbus a fight.
Dude, that's
not
actually
great,
what
though.
I said. It's, it's more kind than most.
I might have went 0 for 8.
Toronto in 7.
Yeah, I knew that.
2.
All right.
Kyle Dubas
I
liked
went
that I
2
picked
for
that.
Washington in 6.
Ooh, over 3.
Pittsburgh
Just a bit
in 7.
outside.
0 for 4. I went 0 for in the East as well.
All right. Calgary in 5.
0 for 5.
Oh, man.
Vegas in 7.
0 for 6.
The perfect bracket.
Almost.
Nashville in 6.
Here we go.
1 more. St. Louis in 7.
Damn it.
Never in doubt.
He got one.
Never in doubt. And they pay me to do that.
You can do it, kids.
You can be that bad. And they're still sending me to the second round.
Where are you covering, by the way?
I'm on my way to Columbus.
Oh. So you get to deal with Boston and Columbus. That'll be a fun.
For those who love to rock.
Oh, yeah, you love the cannon, right?
I hate the cannon.
Yeah.
It's loud. Like, it's legit loud.
Couple things, though. We haven't talked about that Vegas San Jose Game 7. Interesting to know, because scouting the refs reports on all this stuff, the refs from Leafs Bruins Game 2 and the refs from San Jose Vegas Game 7 are turfed. They're done for the season.
I know, and the 2 refs from Game 7 are good.
Are
There's
they?
Wes McCauley.
Dan O'Halloran and Eric Furlat were Game 7 in San Jose.
Who was
Okay,
Wes McCauley? Or he did Game 6.
Yeah.
He's working round 2, bud.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was.
He's
very
still screaming
surprised
into
by
mics and eating ice cream.
I love ice cream.
I love that guy.
But yeah, that's the price, I guess.
So that's their way of punishing, maybe?
Yeah, and I didn't ask anyone directly from that, but I think it's fair to say they were good enough to work the second last game of the entire first round, and they weren't good enough to work the second round.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That to me is a clear.
What do you say about something like that? Do you think there'll be changes because of what happened with
I hope
Deacon?
not. I hope not. I mean, I didn't like the call, but first of all, Vegas, don't let in 4 goals on the penalty kill. Like shit happens. It's hockey. It's played fast. It's rubber on ice. It's chaos. It's like, why do we even like this sport? It's nuts.
It is a stupid
It's
sport.
nuts.
It's stupid.
But I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to watch it in a few hours from right now. After watching it last night until that double overtime game ended. After being in Boston the night before. Like,
and you're talking about it with us, and you got to finish writing about it.
I got to
after
write a
this.
story about it. I was on Jeff Blair's radio show at 9 a.m. this morning. Like,
Jesus.
my whole day was just like hockey, 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 hockey. Yeah, so that's punishment. The refs get paid for every round, like something like 18 grand, I want to say.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Like decent dough for 2 weeks' work.
Yeah.
I'd take it.
It's not bad.
Sight unseen. Yeah, that sounds good.
Is
I'm
that
not,
what you get
I'm not
paid
even
for
reading
the
the fine print, man. Yeah.
Is that what you make as a second round bonus, Chris?
Negative. Do you know what's weird about me is that I get paid either way.
Yeah.
I have a contract. Like, if they sent me to the second round, I got to work every day and fly around and not sleep. And if I didn't get to go, I just get paid.
Right.
I've gotten.
But I like working, and it's not really work.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had to
be
explain
clear.
to my wife several times now that no, I am not off for the summer because the Leafs are out.
Yeah. Caprice
not
asked me
how it
every year
works.
this.
She thought you were done?
Yeah, I'm like, wait, when does that ever? No, that's not how this works.
Caprice asked
I don't
me
work
every
for
year.
Leafs TV anymore, love.
Once
Like-
the Leafs are out, she's like, so the podcast goes down to 1 a week now. I'm like, no.
3 a
For the-
week.
For the 5th week in a row, or for the 5th year in a row, we will continue till after July 1st at twice a week.
We're gonna have
That's
to
what we
figure
do.
something out when you become dad.
Well, you guys will just have to do it without me, because that's 4 weeks away.
No, the
man.
baby's coming on the show.
Yeah.
Does paternity leave extend to the SDP here? Or
You
what?
free in June there? Chris?
Maybe. I don't know.
It does, because I want to keep my marriage together. If I was here within the first week or so, I think she would kill me. which I think is fair, right?
I don't know. I've never had a kid.
Yeah. Well, you get to this point.
You're going into the great unknown among those in this room, I think.
Yeah,
I'm trying to plan some like podcast book dates, and Adam's like, "Hey,
yeah, within
maybe
a month
pump
of
the
this
brakes."
date, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be excited to watch you on television from the hospital room because that's essentially what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be.
Oh, baby.
Apparently, when I was a kid or something, or when I put my mom through 26 hours of labor.
Good for you.
And I guess the guy who was doing the birthing was like, okay, so you're not dilated enough yet for this to be anything. So I'm just going to go watch the game. And I guess there were some playoffs or something on at that point. And I'll be back in a few hours once it's over, and we'll check on you then. And that's what he did. And then I think at 1 a.m. that night, that was when I was born. But yeah, anyway, I thought that was really funny. She's like, just so you know, the playoffs were on.
Wow.
Chris, when you look at this point in the playoffs, I have to ask you personally, are you burnt out at this point?
No.
No. Do you reach a point in the season where you're burnt
I'm like
out?
a marathon runner, and I'm on like kilometer 4. If I was burnt out now, I'm not finishing the race.
Really? Okay.
But I got to say, for me, when I work Leafs playoffs, it's a lot more work. I'm just doing way more television, writing more radio spots. And so now covering the second round is actually going to be less work.
Really? Okay.
I'm still, like, it's not nothing, but the demand goes down.
The first round of the playoffs is insanity. It's hard.
You just
Demolition
never sleep. You just, but it's the best time of year too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm not burnt out. This year, it's not going to be good for our sponsor, but I'm on dry island right now.
Oh, really?
So that's made it a little easier that I haven't done any self-inflicted damage along
Is
the way.
that till the summer?
I don't know. It's undefined. I said I would do it through the first round,
Wow.
and I've made it. But now I'm saying through the second round, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, whenever you decide to pick back up,
Crown Royal will be there
maybe
for
in
you.
the summer we'll have a Crown Royal together and actually hang
I'm
out.
into week 5 though. It's been.
I'm proud of you. That's
Oh,
great.
that's good. Yeah.
Not
Pizza.
like because it's the thing is.
I'm still eating pizza. Don't get me wrong.
But it's like, you get out on the road and sometimes there's nothing to do but hang out in your hotel room, right?
Well, I could still leave. I just can order not alcohol.
Yeah, I guess.
Like I've been out to dinner with the
I guess
guys who are drinking, and
when
I'm
we
just
were
not.
in Nashville, it just felt like, I guess because we weren't working really, it felt like oh my God, this would feel like a vacation all the time. But I guess it doesn't.
No. I mean, I love it, but we go to the same cities over and over again, right? So like I'm at the point, like I'm old, man. I've done this a while.
You're not that old.
But I know.
Are you even 40?
No.
You can't be old yet,
Yeah.
man. You
You're not
cannot
even
do that to us.
But I still, like, I've been to Boston, no joke, 100 times maybe. I have no idea.
Wow.
So you've experienced it.
Yeah, and all the cities, more or less. So it's not like a vacation. And I got to work every day. And I got to wake up early and stay up late after a game. Like the one game in Boston, I got to my bed at 2 a.m. after working that night. The game started at 8 o'clock. Was that game 2?
Yeah.
And then...
Yes. That was
And
a
then
weird
I had to
one.
get up at 4 and fly home, and then like go to Leafs practice and write stories and do TV and like again, it's an awesome life, but you're all in. So I just thought this year, rather than the odd night that isn't so heavy, like add to it by staying out late. It's not so much just the drinking; it's just everything.
Yeah.
I'm like making better decisions all around.
Are you managing your minutes?
I am
Load
management.
There you go.
And then honestly, some of it is spurred by just it is such a grind to do that for 2 straight months.
Oh yeah.
So I'm trying to pace myself here. So I'm not burnt out yet. Knock wood.
The 2014 draft in Philadelphia. I went to a bar. I arrived there. There was a man who was double fisting, and when I arrived, I left before him, very drunk. I woke up hungover to that person on the TV. I couldn't
amazing.
believe it.
It wasn't me.
It was not CJ.
I was gonna, let's clarify that before that might be out there.
It was not CJ, and maybe some people can do it. Not me.
Here's the
thing: I can do it. I just don't think it's that smart.
No, it's super not
And
smart.
to be honest, if I'm being like totally cards on the table, I thought the Leafs were going to go on a run this year. I wanted to be at my best covering something like that. I didn't want to, I just didn't want to have any regrets if this was like a year where I covered the Leafs going to the Cup or something, and that I wasn't giving it my all.
Enjoy that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be good at my job, honestly, and so that was part of the decision making. But
It's
Now they're
amazing.
out.
In the
Now they're
70s,
out.
in the 70s, like the players would go to a practice and then have like a full-on liquid lunch.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see the players like, well, I don't even want to have a beer over the course of the season, and now the reporters are too. Like the pace is picking up.
well, and here's the thing: like someone's coming for my job too. I mean, I want to do it well. So
Agreed.
You don't want anyone. You don't want any
Always.
regrets. It sounds crazy because all I'm doing is covering the series, but you want to be good at it, and it takes a lot of mental energy every day to have ideas and to be asking questions and thinking of where the stories are going and watching the games closely. So
It's a special gig. Okay, then here's my Stanley Cup.
and I don't want to
question.
have to get a real job. Like I
No,
really,
no.
The
no,
toy
that's
store.
crap.
like honestly, like I'm starting to think like I can maybe do this till I don't have to work again. Maybe.
Good.
I hadn't thought of that before, but
Really? What did you think Plan B was?
I didn't have one. That's why.
That's the point. You're
But
not
like,
supposed to.
but the axe is like this in journalism always, right? Like everywhere I've worked, people are getting gassed all the time.
Okay, but do you think that if you got gassed, you wouldn't find work somewhere else? Do you honestly think that?
I don't
We would
know.
just have you be like, Chris, join the show. Like, honestly, it would be like, come on more, or start a podcast, or join. How? I mean,
I try not to,
I'd
like,
be
put
waiting
my
for that
energy
article
there,
where
though,
you
you know?
joined the Athletic. Like, you know what I mean? It would. Just,
I'd work anywhere. I'm not gonna.
that's the point.
The,
I
the
don't-
Chris slot on the podcast has been empty for a few years now.
That's true.
There is an open.
We haven't had a Chris number
It's a lot of
two.
oxygen. I've just been doing nothing but talking for 2 hours here.
We like that. That's the point. I did want to ask you though, what if there's a city, if there's two cities that are the best cities to have a good time in that would make for the best party Stanley Cup final? So it's not
Remaining.
a prediction. So you got Dallas, you got St. Louis.
Oh,
Colorado.
among the remaining,
Among the remaining.
I can
Dallas,
tell you who it wouldn't be.
Okay.
No, St. Louis.
Really?
Oh, really?
St.
Louis
Louis is
boring?
my 31st favorite city to visit.
Why?
Wow, that's surprising. I don't know why, but
It's because the downtown doesn't make you feel confident in your safety.
Oh.
And
didn't know that.
here's the thing, and because I don't know if you have listeners in St. Louis.
We do.
Yeah.
We have listeners everywhere.
So I think that there's like apparently amazing suburbs of St. Louis. Like more NHL players stay in St. Louis after playing for the Blues than most teams. And so I think that there is an area of that city that's great. But just around the arena, the few times I've been there over the years, I just don't. You just feel like someone might get stabbed.
Right.
And part of it, honestly,
Stabby. Okay.
a couple years ago when they went on the run to the conference final, there was a media hotel and someone got murdered in plain daylight in front of the media hotel. And
God.
so I'm partially influenced by that story. I wasn't even there.
I think
I'm gonna
that's
go
fair.
with this.
But here's the
probably
point:
that.
is like think of all the cities. Like there's murders happening in all these cities, frankly.
Sure.
But it's in my mind that I don't get excited to go there.
And this is a personal opinion. It's okay. I don't think anybody in St. Louis.
Right, but I'm
is
not
gonna
trying
be
to besmirch St. Louis.
No,
It's just
and I don't think anyone would take it that way. And if they did,
and
don't.
actually I kind of respect the Blues, man. Like what a season they've
Oh
had.
man, from last
Oh.
to where they are, they were dead last. They were
picked them-
last.
I picked
And
them
they're
to go to the
good.
final. That's the one thing I still got going.
Well, and I'm actually thinking that's the team now in the West I think is going
What
to
a
get through.
story that would be. That'd be better than Vegas.
I was cheering for Vegas for the city. Like not for
For the fans, you mean? Not for you.
no, just to go stay on the strip again and like
Yeah.
cover the cup final. That was amazing.
That would have been cool.
There was like no downside to that. It was awesome.
You ever forget you had to? Oh, I got to go to the rink.
Oh, all the
I'm not
time.
on
Like, it's brutal there. I've been to Vegas once with my buddies, and I've gone to like 10 NHL award ceremonies, and last year in the playoffs, and a few Leafs games there, and whatever. Like I've only been to Vegas to work, and like it's so confusing all the time. You have to constantly be like, I got to do this, or you're gonna forget it, because you can just like see a bright light and wander off, and it's 10 days later. Like
Vegas is bad for a guy like me, man. There's a lot of bright lights.
Yeah.
By the way. Like, that's what everything is.
I had a
Party City
really
in the
good
West.
gambling cup final too.
Party City in the West.
I was making more money
Oh,
Get out of here.
than what I was probably
Get
making
out of
working.
here.
wow, really?
It was insane, and I couldn't lose.
Good for you.
Chris
That's-
Johnston.
I know. Why am I telling this story?
I don't know.
This does not look good on me. Probably.
Is the S in Johnston a money sign?
We want people to come here and feel comfortable enough to tell those stories because we certainly
If
do.
it makes you feel better, I went back with the Leafs on Valentine's Day and left some of that money back there.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
That's sort of how gambling works, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I don't do it because I cheer.
But
for
I
the Leafs
honestly
and I'm used
expected to
losing.
see like a statue of myself in the Cosmopolitan Casino because I used it as my ATM for like 2 weeks.
That's amazing. What's your game of choice?
Blackjack is my favorite game. I will occasionally delve into the craps, but that's got to be a special kind of night.
Are you like a $5 hand? Like what hands are you joining?
like minimum 10, 15,
Is that what they
20,
are?
I don't know.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends what's happening. Depends how much money I've won.
Do you wear sunglasses like the guys on TV
No.
playing poker?
I'm like the guy, especially what I like about blackjack is you sit at a table and you meet people. It's very social. Sometimes you start winning together and like that feeling's great. That's what's great about craps too, is that you can win.
You win together.
Yeah, more or less. There can be the odd idiot at craps who bets against the whole table. So he's literally cheering for everybody to lose so he wins.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. You're gonna have to.
I would never be that guy.
I don't know how to gamble.
I'd rather lose money than be that guy.
Okay.
Than win at the expense of the table's misery.
That's amazing. I don't even know how over/under works, to be honest with you. I don't know how point spreads, any of that. I don't know anything about. The reason is that I feel like I'd like it, and that I would get into it, and that's why I don't want to do.
I'm
that.
not a huge sports gambler. But it's more. Although I did put money on Tiger Woods to win the Masters.
Oh no!
Now
That's a good
were the
payout.
odds good on that?
16-1.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, and hockey is the single dumbest sport to bet on. Like, Exhibit A is these past playoffs.
Well, you could have made money on the Hurricanes last
Oh
night.
baby, could you ever?
Yeah.
They were down 3-1 in that game. Like if you live bet it in game, you would have probably got like 30-1. I don't know. I didn't look, but you would have got crazy odds at that point.
It would have been a great year for live betting. Yeah, a great year
but
for in-game betting.
The thing is the flip side of that is it's impossible to know.
Yeah.
Like I always say, people want my prediction, right? I'll meet people that recognize me, whatever. What do you think's going to happen tonight? I'm like, if I knew, I would literally put a ton of money on this, and I wouldn't even bother working. But like, I don't know, and I honestly think nobody knows.
No.
Yeah.
Like Kyle Dubas, you could ask him, like if you gave him truth serum on like before Game 6 or 7, he wouldn't know, and he knows everything about his team, but it's unpredictable. That's what makes it fun to watch. But I wouldn't want to be making my money on it.
Dallas, St. Louis, Colorado, San Jose. Who's your party city? I heard San Jose's quiet too. Not bad, just quieter.
It's quiet.
San Jose is very quiet. Like that was a quiet cup final a couple years ago there. Dallas, you can have fun, but I've never really gone wild there.
So you're gonna say Denver?
I've never really gone wild there either. But Denver and Dallas are way more on the party side than the others.
Okay.
I think. I mean, look, you can have fun anywhere, but Dallas is a bit of a spread out vibe. We had a killer steak dinner there when the Leafs were there this year.
I bet. I bet you did.
At
So
some
that
place
Texas
called
beef?
like Knife or something, and I think it was called Knife I remember Mark Masters actually got like bacon wrapped in bacon, like it was like some like
Whoa.
multiple bacon thing.
While sitting in first class, no doubt.
And I put him on my Instagram story and called him the Baconator and his wife like that. But
They weren't on a plane. That was in a restaurant.
No, I'm. You know the Mark Master story?
No.
He was,
you don't know this story?
No. Should I know this story?
Legend status.
You take the reins.
Please.
there.
So a few years ago in Chicago, he had brought his wife down because it was Valentine's Day, and the
Oh my
Leafs were
God! It
there.
was Valentine's.
And then when they were leaving the day after the game, he put in for an upgrade on his flight and only got one of the tickets upgraded. And his wife, she's actually a doll. She's great. But she encouraged him to take that seat. Like, it wasn't just him. So he sat in first class while his wife sat in the back. Now, little did he know, she got sat rather in coach beside Chris Cuthbert, who was like, "Aren't you Mark's wife? Where's Mark?" "Oh, he's up in first class." Chris Cuthbert tweets it as they're taking off. The plane lands and Mark said his phone like exploded. Like he said, like literally the notifications and whatever just like crippled his phone.
Oh my God.
To the point that like 2 days later, Mike Babcock before his press conference goes, "Hey, who put his wife in the cattle cart?" And like Roberto Luongo commented on it. In fact, the other day I took a picture of Mark during the playoffs and put it on my Instagram story, and I got Frankie Corrado just wrote me first class or no class. Like so, even the players knew about
That's
this.
funny. Oh my God.
Wasn't that the birth of Masters Nation?
It was.
By the way, Chris Cuthbert is. I'm sorry, everybody else. To me, he is my absolute favorite play-by-play guy that we get to.
You would, bellboy.
No, I love Chris Cuthbert.
You
And
would.
I wish that they didn't have to have, company-specific guys. I wish it was just the best of the best because I think Chris Cuthbert is probably
What,
the
in
best.
this imaginary land of like lollipops
I know.
and rainbows?
Bell and Rogers just hate each other, but I
wish we all just worked with just the universe.
I know. Yeah. Well, Joe Bowen works for the team, right? So you can hear him on TSN and Sportsnet on the radio, right?
Yeah.
So that in that way, I guess. And the Leafs are owned by both Bell and Rogers, so they have to hold hands at some point. So
No, we don't," said Bell and Rogers.
okay, East Coast. Chris, Columbus, Boston, Carolina, New York Islanders. Who is the best party candidate? We're gonna have the best time.
If you're New York Islanders in Long Island, no chance. That's like going to jail if you're visiting because you're surrounded by kind of freeways. There's a hotel. It's actually very convenient. There's a hotel right beside the parking lot, beside the arena.
Oh, nice.
But you just go to that hotel and you don't leave that area. Like you can walk to a Chipotle and a Starbucks, and that's about it.
Wow.
That would suit
sucks.
the Leafs just fine.
So that I don't class as party-like, but they're playing in Brooklyn for the playoffs. So, I mean,
That's a good time.
you're a short subway from Manhattan or just chill in Brooklyn. So probably that would be the biggest party. I've only covered a few games in Brooklyn, and I never partied after.
Brooklyn's great. Brooklyn's a
you know what?
lot of fun.
Columbus is like a low-key party mecca.
Really?
Like I would
really
say,
liked it.
of my
Yeah.
years doing the NHL All-Star Game, the drunkest, most exciting, fun All-Star Game was Columbus. And I'm including an All-Star Game in Tampa in there. I've been to one in LA. I missed the one in Nashville, which was probably...
A good time.
I think we could safely guess that one was even drunker than Columbus. But of the ones I've attended, Columbus was off the rails. Like... insane. Like the entire NHL was drunk together for 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like players, media.
Steve talks about that all the time.
It
You were
was well, and it was my first and only All-Star experience, so I don't know what it is compared to the others, but I was like, this feels a little off the rails.
It was off the rails.
Okay, I guess it was then.
And it's a college town. Like I'm actually thinking
Yeah.
it's going to be cool. I'm going there in a couple days for Game 3. It'll be cool to be there when the weather's nice and I know there's a vibe around the team and like there's a nice area around the rink. So, you know, being on Dry Island, I'm not going to be partying it up, but I'm guessing some of the reporters on that series are going to have more fun than you would have guessed when they're in Columbus.
A drunk friend of mine, who I won't name, Justin Fisher, accidentally opened a door and like stumbled upon like half of the Eastern All-Star team. or
I was in
something.
that room.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
Wait, do you actually remember that?
Yeah, because
I didn't know you were in there.
Yeah. So the reason Joey Vendetta was throwing a party.
Joey Van
As
a radio
always.
personality from L.A. and Toronto.
Yeah, and he was
Right.
throwing a party, and he told us to go to some bar, and he's like, it's the room off to the side. And we walked into that room and thought it was his party, but it wasn't his party. So then we were just in the room with all the players. Not all, but there's other people too. It wasn't just players, but
Yeah.
and it was crazy.
You were with Justin when that happened?
I wasn't with Justin.
Oh.
I was in the room you're talking about.
Oh.
I don't even know if I knew Justin then.
No, and now you know him as Twitter God, Justin Fisher.
Yes.
sure.
Did he get one of your books yet? Or
No, not for me. Maybe if you bought it.
Have
with
you had a
currency.
chance to read it?
I did read it. I
Did
got
you
to
read it?
I got an advanced look at
It's
the
on the
book.
back of the book.
Oh, okay. And
It was great.
reviews, thoughts?
It's
Was there
awesome.
was there anything in there that surprised you? Like when you, because you know Steve
Well-
pretty well.
But I knew him well, kind of work colleague-y. Like I didn't know much about his personal life or his upbringing.
Or the zoo.
I knew because he talks about the zoo a fair bit, so I knew he'd worked at the zoo.
Yeah.
But I didn't know all those stories about the zoo. So I would say the whole thing, I didn't know almost any of it, and it was great because there's a lot to the man, and who would have known, right? So
There's
he's not
that.
just the guy that yells at a webcam.
I gotta have you by the Schwaj Mahal, and I'll tell you the rest of it.
I came to the book launch in Whitby.
That's right. And I paid attention to nobody.
No, that was fine. It was fun.
Dude,
Oh, it was a lot of fun,
We had
but
a
I
great
felt
time.
like I didn't have any time to talk.
I took
to
a picture with your picture.
Oh, yeah, you
cutout.
did.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we had a beer together. We were all, the three of us had a beer together. But yeah, you were busy, man. You're doing stuff.
It was-
It's okay.
It's like your
a lot of
wedding,
fun.
kind of.
It felt.
I mean,
like
I wasn't at your wedding, but I just mean it's like that thing where you know everybody in the room, and
That's how his wedding
it's
felt too.
a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
and-
But
busy.
without the burden of a bride, am I right? No. The book doesn't get written without her, man.
Chris, are you ever going to write a book?
Probably. I'm
What do you
not
think
there
it would
yet.
be about?
Hockey.
Would it be about your life in hockey, or would it be stories from the road, or would it be like what Ken Reed does, which is kind of Ken has like a different. Ken's books aren't about Ken, right? They're about about players. Like, what do you think?
I'm
you'll do?
probably less inclined to write about myself, but I don't know. I mean, it hasn't struck me enough to do it because, as Steve could attest, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
you write
Yeah.
a lot.
I write every day pretty much in the season, so I don't want to spend July and August writing necessarily.
What?
But I think it'll happen one day.
what are you going to spend July and August doing?
I don't know yet. It's
Gonna go to
tough.
Japan or something.
You know, you end up in like you and Sean McKenzie end up in like the craziest spots. And
Well,
I'm
I
like,
love
damn it, why didn't I
traveling.
think of that.
Yeah, but Sean will do
And-
it in like November,
Yeah, he'll just get a random week off.
February.
But my wife and I, we can't decide this year what we're going to do. I don't know. I mean, it's a good problem to have. We just haven't been hit with the wave of inspiration.
Okay.
Oshawa.
Oshawa.
I've been to Oshawa. It's not
the
that great.
day's in.
What?
Go to the pool.
You've never been to the Tartan. How dare you?
Yeah, we got to get you.
I
We got
think
to
I
get you to
might
the
have been to the
Titanic.
Tartan.
You probably have.
Which street's it on?
Roslyn.
I have been to the Tartan.
You been in the back room in the Tartan?
Uh,
Okay.
I've seen some things.
Okay,
It's-
yeah, the Tartan's had some times.
I grew up in Coburg too, so it's like
That's
it's not
not
really
far.
that far away.
Yeah.
Oshawa's like the metropolis from Coburg, but
Yeah, a buddy of mine from Port Perry, when he talks about, oh yeah, when I was younger, I went downtown, he's referring to Oshawa.
oh yeah,
He's not referring to Toronto.
Yeah,
oh
absolutely.
yeah. And Oshawa was like the team that just kicked the shit out of us in hockey whenever we played them.
Yeah, there's some
All
good
those like
players.
city kids with money and equipment.
See, it was always the country kids that kicked our asses in Scarborough. It'd always be like these country teams that had backyard rinks, and they just had more ice time. Like they just killed us.
And Scarborough's
It'd be-
like, we found ice in Heron Park.
Yeah, exactly. We found
But we
ice,
produced
thank God.
Justin Williams, so he's still going at age 37.
Mr.
true.
Game 7. Yeah,
Ridiculous.
Did you see that last night?
that's unbelievable. How old is he now?
37.
3 7ths.
So I'm gonna now give this away for life. But Justin and I are born 2 weeks apart,
Whoa.
and we grew up together. So I'm also 37. If you're following
Really?
along,
So
at
you
all.
guys like
Yeah, we legitimately played hockey together as kids.
wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Was he always a step above?
Yeah, he was the guy who scored 7 goals when we were like. Every town has this.
We
though.
won.
And lose
He
7
won.
8.
What's amazing is, well, no, he got so good he was out of town. Like,
Yeah.
he had to go elsewhere to play. But it's just amazing because every town has someone your age that's better than everyone.
Yeah.
But still, the
Wayne
odds
Simmons.
of that guy making the NHL
Nothing.
generally are low. And
Yeah.
the fact that the one guy from our little town made it known, he made it when he was 18. I was at Ryerson my first year, and my dad called me. He's like, Justin made the Flyers. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. And then here I am with gray in my beard, and he's still playing in the NHL. He's brought the Stanley Cup home 3 times, won the Conn Smythe. Just an all-around awesome dude, runs a hockey school out of Coburg. Really low-key, no skeletons in his closet, kind of just what you'd hope for from a player. So, and I think hockey is full of those type of people. I just don't get to know them all as well as I've known him and his family over the years. So
That's cool.
he's an awesome dude. I must say, I don't cheer for teams, but I cheer for a guy like that. And so, you know, I had nothing against the Capitals, but seeing him create that goal in overtime, I'm just like,
Yeah, it had to be him.
you magnificent bastard. Like, still going at 37. And honestly, I don't know how much longer he's going to play. You know, he's not signed beyond this year. I think he's good enough to play, but he's got kids and a lot going on in his life. So there's an outside chance, and I don't know anything. I haven't asked him, but this could be it. So
Well, here's hoping they keep going. It's been fun to watch the Carolina Hurricanes.
if
do
they
this.
win the cup,
oh,
he's probably retiring. I'm just getting
Yeah.
I'm putting
Oh my
myself
God.
out there,
Fair.
but like
37. Yeah, I think that's that's a fair guess, right?
right. But he did have like 52 points this year, so it's not a lack of being able to contribute.
No,
But-
no, and he beat his old team too, which is wild. Because remember how he got torched partially by us
Now he's got to beat his
when
old
he
coach.
left Washington, and then he beat them. Because
Did we torch him for that?
Yeah, because he said, "I want to go to." He said something about being frustrated about not winning, and then they won the cup.
Oh, well,
So there was something about that.
They did
There was
have
no
to
bad
get rid
feelings
of,
there, though. They had a cap
Carl
issue.
Olsner also said that, and he got torched too.
Yeah, they had to get rid of someone because of cap reasons. But
And the contract he signed with Carolina was the richest contract he had in his whole career.
Wow.
Got to take it.
So like he
take
made
it.
some money to go there.
really
$5.5
understated
million, I think.
career.
That's great.
Anyway, but he's a better guy. It's not about.
Not about that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and
Well,
he's from Coburg.
And his name's on the town sign.
Oh,
it?
no way.
Oh yeah. Are you kidding?
I love that. So
I mean-
he's Sidney Crosby level then,
Yeah.
like Cole Harbor, home
Yeah,
of Sidney
it's
Crosby.
so funny that when you're in a small town, like I don't know if people appreciate how awesome. It's like no one wants to stand out in a small town. The tallest poppy syndrome. Like you cut people down that try to stand out. So like I don't know that he gets the love he should. Like if I was in charge, and I don't even live there anymore, so I shouldn't probably be commenting. But like, why isn't the rink not named after him? Like if I had have even known when I was a little kid that someone could do what he's done, like it didn't even occur to me that was possible at that time. And I just think when you have someone who does something amazing and is proud of where he's from, his parents still live in the same house,
He will.
they should like be doing a little bit more for him. But they did put his name on the town sign, so that's a start.
Once he retires. Didn't Joe Newendike get an arena in Whitby?
I think so.
Or something like
yeah.
that? It'll happen.
Yeah, it will happen for sure. Especially if he brings the cup home again.
Well, he's already brought it there 3 times. I mean,
Yeah, what more does he have to do? No, it's a fourth, Justin. That's
Yeah.
what we need.
and there's literally no one else in that whole time that's from Coburg that's made the NHL or even
Wow.
been that close. A couple
Really?
guys in the OHL, but.
Wow.
That's how tough the odds are.
But my
Crazy.
point is that so the one lottery ticket Coburg's had is just keeps hitting, and might hit again.
Wow.
Be nice if the Leafs had a lottery ticket that kept hitting.
Do you know what? Justin's dad always wanted him to come home and play for the Leafs and win a cup.
Come home home, Justin.
But I don't think that's going to happen.
He'd be great.
1 year leagueman,
I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's,
Yeah, he's happy.
backup goalie.
again, I should be really clear here. He hasn't told me any of this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm guessing that moving back to Carolina, he's probably going to move into some sort of role with the team at some point. And
Okay.
I get it. He hasn't lived here since he's 37. He hasn't lived here since he was like, he went to Plymouth maybe when he was 16 to play in the OHL.
It's not home to him.
He's lived longer in the U.S. than he ever lived in Coburg. So,
Yeah, I
and
get
he
it.
married a girl from Philly, and his kids are American. So,
Jesse, do we have questions for a press conference? We just wrap it up.
No, we're
All
good.
right, Chris.
Remember when you were like, I don't know how long I can stay?
You
2.5 hours ago or whatever?
just getting messages like, "When are you getting groceries?" Missed a couple
Oh,
calls.
sorry. Yeah.
It was fun though.
We always have such a blast when you come here, and I mean it when I say this. If you have time off this summer to just come in and hang out,
Seriously.
please do.
I will, man.
When you're not in Greece or Turkey or wherever you're heading this summer, or East Asia or Australia,
Wherever
whatever.
Sean McKenzie's taking Instagram
Exactly. Yeah,
photos.
exactly.
Come on, Sean is like way more glamorous than me.
He's Sean makes it look good.
Yeah.
He makes everything kind of look.
Yeah.
It's got
That smolder?
There's a smolder to that guy.
He's his dad calls him the luxury consultant. And what I love lots of things. Sean and I are really good buddies, but he's a great guy to travel with for work. Because when we're working, again, you don't have a lot of time to do this fun stuff. But Sean will be like, Thursday night, we're going to have a dinner. And he will do extensive research on where we're going to have a dinner. He'll have a reason why he picked that. He'll be like working the phone to get reservations. He'll be talking to everyone. Like he's a glue guy kind of in the media corps.
Awesome. I
And
love
so
that.
even though he likes the finer things in life, he's like really humble about it. And he's just an awesome guy to eat with and to spend time with. And
We had him on the show and just could not have been a better guy. We just loved it.
and he's like kind of young and cool and like has nice clothes. And I show up looking like a dad, and he lets me still come to that dinner. So
Well, Chris, we love you. We're so happy that you made time for us today. Thank you, as always. And I know our listeners are just gonna like have their minds blown by some of the stuff.
who
that
is still
came out.
listening at 2 hours and 10 minutes in?
You always say that.
Oh, you
And
always
they
say that.
are. I mean,
If
3
somebody
a.m.
out there is
Newfoundland.
actually listening,
tweet Chris-
send me a note.
tweet Chris and tell him that you're still listening, because we did this last time. And, a
And
lot of
if
people
you
did.
are, you got to find another hobby. Like, I love these guys, but come on. Come on. 2 hours and 10 minutes in?
Dude, the Leafs are out. What else are they supposed to listen to?
Right.
I don't know. They can watch the other games on Sportsnet?
Nonsense. Oh, never mind. Yes. And also buy a Rogers phone.
Yes. And rack up a lot of minutes listening to podcasts on.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
right,
know.
our podcast.
Just constantly screenshot your phone and text your mom just to remind her what the time is.
But thank you, anyone who listened, because if no one was listening, we probably wouldn't do this.
think
Actually, we might.
Well, we might anyway.
I
but-
would yell at my zoo coworkers for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We'd have just more Crown Royal on the table.
It would just not be as free. Chris, thanks so much for coming in, and we will be back, I guess, next week.
Well,
Is this
yeah.
our second show this week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, this week has felt like at a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. We don't know what days yet. We'll tweet it out. We'll figure it out. Love you guys. Love you, Chris. Thank you for coming. Woo!
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.